There's Dean here. That's Dean 78904. If you want to get all technical, that's the screen name that hopefully is taking down some American dollars tonight on Fanduel or on DraftKings. Playing some NBA, DFS. Happy to not have a 12-game slate. Happy to not have an 11-game slate. We got 8. We're whittling it down to the sweet spot. Joined today on a Monday with Keith Eister, Iceman. Keith, what do we have? Is that the good number for you? What's the sweet spot for you as far as basketball games? I'm just excited we don't have to. Previous shows I've done so far, it's just been a flat-out sprint getting through everything the best we can, but we can kind of sort of take our time a little bit more with 8 games. Is that the right number? Is it 7? Is it 6? What's the sweet spot for you as far as the ideal number of games on an NBA slate?
Yeah, I think 8 is right about the number that I prefer. There's plenty of options. Like we'll see what kind of value opens up, but there isn't just all these smash values that it's pretty easy to jam in studs. But there's not so many games that it's just really hard to take a stand in a particular area. So yeah, like 6 to 8, I think is preferred. But eight when there's not a ton of value and still there's a couple of great games that we'll definitely get into. This is a really good slate.
The other interesting part about this slate, by the way, as far as like swappability, it's an 8-gamer, right? There's 1 game at 7 o'clock. And there's 6 games that start either at 7:30 or 8 o'clock, 6 of the 8 games. And then there's a 2-hour break, and you got Denver, Portland, that's kind of on an island. Does that change your process? Like, theoretically, we should get information faster. As of right now, I don't expect it's the NBA, it's the association, but I don't really expect anything goofy out of Denver, Portland. I think that one's going to be pretty straight. So I think most of our injury stuff's going to be in by now. Or not by now, I shouldn't say that, but by 7 o'clock, 7:30. Just your thought process as far as attacking the slate, understanding that 8 games, but 6 of the 8 start between 7:30 and 8.
Yeah, timing of the games is definitely something that I always pay attention to. If we have 2 or 3 that are starting a couple hours after like that last other window, then there's always some opportunity there, I believe. You have some information going into those games. When there's only 1 game, it's really tough to do anything with. I'm not exactly sure how much chalk is in that last game.
Not a lot. I don't think.
Yeah, like it's going to be pretty low owned. If there was a super chalky piece, like if you had a lineup that had underperformed, you would definitely want to swap off the chalk in that last game, make a couple of pivots. But it looks like Nurkic is getting a little bit. Not Josh Hart, I guess, will be a little bit owned, but not a ton of chalk in that last game. So I'll have some exposure, but I think primarily those 7:30, 8 o'clock games are where it's at tonight.
Got the lineup HQ tool up. Just jump to that game because you're talking about it, Denver, Portland. We're going to go game by game in a second. Obviously, do want to say what's up to those hanging out with us in the chat, in the YouTubes. Kindly, we very much appreciate if you keep the lights on. How do you do that? You hit the like button. That's it. Just caress it, tap it, whatever your absolute choice happens to be. Hit that like button. What's up, Stan and Mr. Richard and Herbert in chat and Don Yeezy. Appreciate y'all. You know, the audience grows as the show progresses, but we appreciate y'all jumping in here right from the start. You don't want to miss all the pleasantries right out the gate. This is the good stuff for sure. The highest percent owned player as of right now is Josh Hart, aforementioned. Best rebounding guard in basketball, one of the best rebounding guards in basketball. I think he had like 16 the other night, which is pretty ridiculous. 5.6K on DK, just kind of a salary thing. He sort of makes stuff work. 20% as of right now. Simon's right there around 20% as well too. Otherwise, it is interesting that Jokic is only a 10%er. Like whenever he's like 10%, it's interesting. But historically, not amazing against Nurkic. He's amazing against everybody, but by his standards, Nurkic about as girthy as they get in the NBA. Some are saying he's a little bit out of shape sometimes, but Nurkic does play Jokic reasonably well considering. General thoughts? Oh, go ahead.
Lillard's FanDuel price is going to put him quite a bit in play as well. He's 8,800 over on FanDuel, so just wanted to mention him while we were talking about that game.
That's a good point. Obviously things change depending on where you're shopping, and I think Lillard's a little bit trickier to get to on DK.
Yep.
But yeah, FanDuel-wise, Lillard is 8.8 and projected for around 20% ownership. Hart also kind of popping there at the shooting guard / small forward eligibility, multi-position versatility. I was looking at the you're talking about value plays, and by the way, the body parts, the main body parts are monitoring. I'm not going to run them all down, but the ones we're monitoring is Scotty Barnes, who's got an ankle, so he's questionable. I think it's really likely he doesn't play. The coach said he's going to miss some time, which is okay. Why is he questionable if he says he's going to miss some time? But okay, the NBA coaches, are you sitting down, Keith? They lie sometimes. So
they do.
Yeah, Steve Kerr was the first person ever to lie to us in opening night about those 30 minutes.
So there were some reports that he was walking around fine after the game. He was wearing sandals, like no walking boot, no wrap on the ankle. So I don't know if that is playing into it, but yeah, I mean, definitely something to monitor. I don't love that game environment overall anyway, so I'm not sure that news honestly changes all that much for me.
We'll talk about it, but I don't like the game environment either, but I think the rotations are going to be really, really condensed due to Miami's not been this thin this year. Caleb Martin's also out. Oladipo's not going to play. Nikola Jovic not available. No, you're at 7. Every time I see that name, what happened? Oh no, it's Jovic. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And of course Toronto, they'll play Nick Nurse, doesn't care. He'll run his guys into the ground and play him 40 minutes a night. We saw what's his name have his revenge game. Precious Achiuwa, little revenge game. He came off the bench because of an ejection, and once he got in the game, he didn't leave. That's just how that works in Toronto. Their rotations are super tight. But I agree, it's not a good environment, but also minutes. You're going to get 38, 39, 40 minutes out of some of those players. I'm looking at the best values. I didn't finish as far as the body parts, the main ones. Scotty Barnes, Dylan Brooks, he's got that thigh. He was ruled in, and then he was ruled out his last game. Again, that's just how that works sometimes in the NBA. If he goes, it's a hit to Concher. Not that he can't play John Morant, but it's certainly a hit to John Morant and his usage. And Şengün, Alperen Şengün. I know DFS Twitter wants to make this guy a thing. Everybody wants to anoint Şengün. We love Şengün's season. He had the fish, so he's not feeling particularly well. He's questionable. But even if he doesn't go, it appears at this point, he's just not going to start, no matter how much we want that to happen. Şengün's season's he's fine for the price, but not starting in Houston. And of course, Houston not really in the business of winning basketball games either. At this point, they're in full tank mode. They're fun to watch. It's a great combination, actually. They're actually fun to watch, and they're losing. So, the front office should be happy. Yeah, I think so. I guess.
Yeah, I think so. Unlike Utah's.
Yeah, we were talking about a pre-show. Danny Ainge has got to be furious that Utah is undefeated. I think that there's nothing official. It's a back-to-back. They played overtime last night. They also traveled. I think there's a really good chance we get at least one. Probably Mike Conley, most likely suspect. He doesn't play, but we'll see. It's early in the season. Biggest values, by the way, according to our lineup HQ tool on DK, dollar for dollar values. You were talking about there's no clear and obvious amazing plays. As far as jumping off the page. The best one, 6x, over 6x, is Garuba. We had projected him to draw the start there. Bruno Fernando is not out for Houston. Is going to be out for Houston, so we presume he'll draw the start no matter what happens with Şengün. That's not the greatest value piece in the world. He's fine. Devin Vassell is a little bit more than 6x projected. He's just not fully adjusted as far as his price to the fact that he's last man standing. Well, having big body Keldon Johnson, last man standing there in San Antonio. And then Kelly Olynyk on the aforementioned Jazz, who's been great when he's not in foul trouble. He's still too cheap as well. That's not for an 8 gamer. We're not in midseason form just yet. For an 8 gamer, that's not incredible value, though, as far as I could say.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it incredible value. I mean, they're certainly in play. You'll want some exposure to those guys just to be able to spend up for. There's plenty of studs on the slate too, so you're going to want to get up to the Jokic, the Durant, the Embiid, and these guys definitely help make that work. So they're in play, but yeah, we don't have any smash 8x plays or anything like that.
Yeah, those are most likely cash game plays. Olynyk and Devin Vassell are probably in your cash games. Maybe Garuba, if you want to make everything work. I'm okay with that as well, but we'll have that conversation as the show progresses. Anything else you want to say overarching as far as the slate, or you just want to dive in and break it down game by game?
I don't have anything just overall slate wise. We'll get into the individual games, I guess, and go over what I've got there. But there's definitely some really great game environments. Is just kind of the overall. There's certain games I'm targeting on the slate.
Indiana, the Pacers are in Philadelphia. 228.5 is the total. Philadelphia is a 12-point favorite, despite the fact they have not won a ball game this year. I believe they lost to the Spurs or the Jazz. One of those two they lost to. I think it was the Spurs. The Spurs, of course, actively trying to lose as well. If the Phillies were not doing things, Philadelphia would be very, very upset at the 76ers right now, but they don't even realize the season has started. We feel like, Vegas feels like, the 76ers should get off the schneid here against the Pacers, who are terrible and completely unpredictable as far as their rotations. I'm going to hate the Pacers so much this year because I wish I can just cross them out. I don't know if we can because their guys are still cheap, and then when they get minutes, they're good fantasy point per minute players. The guys I'm talking about, like Isaiah Jackson and Jalen Smith and Goga Batadze. But I hate it. I hate it. Talk me through the pick. Are you not looking forward to talk about the Pacers the entire season, or is that just me?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be a mess all season, and it's just partly because of how their roster is constructed. Like, they have so many big men. Even with Miles Turner out, there's still plenty of bodies here. You mentioned Jackson and Smith. Terry Taylor's a guy they'll play a little bit of four. O'Shea Brissett can play the four. Goga, obviously. Like, there's plenty of big men still with Turner out. Isaiah Jackson and his price, we talked about there not being a ton of value on the slate. Don't love this matchup, obviously, against Embiid. Like, there's a good chance he finds himself in foul trouble. But for the price, I'll take some shots there. Jalen Smith is a little bit appealing to me at 5,500. Like, it's not the best price. He was much more attractive when he was in the 4Ks, but still in play. Mathurin has been really good, so just wanted to throw his name out there. He's been playing
crazy
incredible.
Efficient. Like, is that we're not gonna? What's he shooting? Like at least 60% or something like that?
Yeah, I don't think it's quite that high. Yeah, like mid 50s though, which probably unsustainable. I agree with you. I think there's some regression coming there. Just to know he's been really good, but he's also now priced up into the 6Ks as well. So, like, Philly is theoretically a pretty good defensive team. They haven't played that great on defense, but I don't know. We'll see. Embiid in the middle there. I think that it's a slight downgrade to the big men just because they have to guard Embiid also. Embiid is obviously a force on the rebounds, which is going to take away from their rebounding rate a little bit. But yeah, just for value, I think there's some pieces in play here.
Like the Jalen Smith thing, we saw he went absolutely nuts last time out, 19 and 15, 3 stocks as well. They had like 13 blocks as a team in the middle of the third quarter last game, Indiana. Just an insane amount of blocks. Some, good energy guys, not great necessarily basketball players, but that's you need players like if you can get 45 fantasy points for 5K. Of course, the price has adjusted somewhat. Now Jalen Smith's up to 5.5, and we've seen the floor as well. Like, I think he's had multiple games where he's left because of injury. I think both games this year, the first 2, he was injured. At least one of them, he got hurt. Or maybe he was supposed to play and he got yanked at the last second. I can't remember what the story was, or he didn't come back. I think that's what happened. Doesn't matter. It's just daily fantasy sports. We care about today and today only, obviously. And that's the thing is, like, some of these guys have slate breaking performance, and that's the other thing is that there's going to be foul trouble, right? Embiid's going to get some of these dudes in foul trouble. We'll talk about Embiid in a second. Like, he just looks like an awesome, awesome play, as does James Harden. Just a few games into the season, but, you look at pace. I don't know how many games we need to get like a stabilizer as far as pace, but you look at it last year as well. I saw Doc Rivers was talking about them playing pretty slow. I believe they've been the slowest team in all basketball as far as pace this season. Yes, they are the slowest team. And Indiana is the third fastest. We love teams that are playing against bad teams that are, playing up in pace, and they're playing about as fast as they can go when you consider their opponents. That's why Harden and Embiid are 2 of the best studs in the slate. Would you agree with that? And I don't know how to handle it because theoretically Philadelphia should blow them out, and Indiana's cool with that, I think. I mean, the players are going to try, obviously, but the front office, right? They're not putting them in the best position to win. Can we play them both in the same lineup? Or if you do that, I guess you kind of sort of have to run back somebody in Indiana. We didn't talk about Halliburton. I'll talk about him in a second, but I wanted to jump over and knock out Harden and Embiid first.
Yeah. I mean, I always, like, all last season, Harden struggled, and it was always just play Embiid anytime Philadelphia's in a good spot. And I think Maxey was the other guy who was just playing out of his mind at the end of last year after they brought Harden over. But Harden's been awesome here in the first couple of games.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would play them together just because, like, if they're both paying off their price tags, like, I don't see any way that Indiana is keeping this game close.
You don't think it's possible? I mean, seriously,
for both
it's about 12. If it's a 12-point game, let's say the line is right, and it's a 12-point game with 3 minutes to go, they're probably both in there.
They're both going to be out there, but are they both having ceiling games paying off their 9K and 10K price tags is my point.
I think so. I think if they each played like 36 minutes, I would lock button both and feel pretty good about it. I mean, like, you might get like 62 out of Embiid and like 51 out of Harden, which is not like a slate breaking performance, I suppose. But raw points are nice too. And of course, that's probably not going to win it necessarily. I don't know, man. And then we'll talk about Halliburton as like the clear run back. There's some cheap guys too in Indiana. But finish your thought, because again, Phillies win this. This does feel like a spot where like they very well could just wallop them and be up like 25 at the half.
Yeah, it's just the Harden and Embiid together that I don't necessarily love. I think they're both individually great plays. I'm having a hard time seeing the ceiling from both of them in the same game, and then Indiana keeping it close. Like, I don't mind a second Philly piece, but I just don't know if I want to spend that much salary on Embiid and Harden. Maxey is the guy that's standing out at 5,800. I wouldn't play him with Harden probably, but Embiid and Maxey are probably my favorite pairing in this game, just because he's a little bit cheaper than Harden. Maybe I'm still just a little bit jaded from Harden's performance last year, and I'm not quite buying it this year.
He's more svelte. He's in better shape.
Yeah, he's been awesome. That's the best way to say it, I think. But I prefer Embiid just slightly, and I think they're both great plays.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, your preference amongst the two. I'm trying to think, like, in your head, do you think the center, like the competition, right? The replacements, if you're not going to play Embiid, what's a better pool to pick from as a pivot? Is it Harden's pool to pick from, or is it Embiid's pool? If you're not going to play one, like, what's stronger, the guards or the center, basically, is the question. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and normally it's center, but I think on this slate, it's actually guard. Obviously, you have Jokic on the slate. I don't know. Like, Minnesota is tough because Gobert and Towns eating into each other. Bam's been really bad. Nurkic is, but he's like, if we're talking about just studs, it's just Jokic and Siakam, in my opinion, that I'm really interested in. And
Siakam, you can play at the forward spot anyway if you really want him.
Yep.
I think he's power forward, right, on DK? Pretty sure he is.
Actually, no, DK, he is a center only.
Okay, so he's power forward on FanDuel.
But he is also 8,700 compared to Jokic's 10,900.
Yeah, and you can run out two centers on DK also. Well, you can't do that on FanDuel. The tricky part with Maxey, like, all he does is score, man. Like, he's good. He's a good basketball player, but if he's not putting points in the bucket, he's not getting there any other way. But, like, you feel like this is a good spot against Indiana to put some points in the bucket, right? So, and his price is pretty cheap too. But I think he's an interesting fade for that reason, just because he can score 19 points and get 24 fantasy points, and that's kind of worthless.
Yeah, he definitely can have games like that. He can also score 35 points.
Yes.
Real points.
Just go to bed.
Yeah.
You can watch the Patriots and the Bears and fall asleep.
Yes.
So are you higher than the field on Maxey? We're currently at 15% on DK.
This is a really strong range, the 5K range. There's like there's no cheap value, but there is value in the 5K range. There's a lot of good plays there. I'm going to try to be overweight on Maxey, I believe, and that's going to put me underweight on Harden, just because of, like, I'm not playing Harden and Maxey together. They both need to score a bunch to get there. I mean, Harden can do it with rebounds and assists also, but if Harden's scoring and having a ceiling game, Maxey's likely not getting there.
In the chat, feel free to throw some names out there. Regarding the conversation, it's great. Otherwise, if it's pertinent to the slate overall, I'll do my best to knock it out also. Or just like general strategy questions. We're still early in the NBA season. If you guys are coming from football, coming from baseball, you want to learn NBA DFS, we're happy to answer those questions too. And, if time permits, Mr. Richard wants to know about, how about Tobias Harris? And this is like the analysis probably ever. He's fine. Is he going to break the slate? No. Is he going to be the guy that blows your team up? Probably not. Like, he's okay. If he's 5.8K and he's going to put up about 30 fantasy points, that's fine, right? I guess.
Yep. I mean, he's very consistent. He's another guy in this 6K range. He's in play. There's a lot more ceiling in this range, I think. So I don't love it.
Yeah.
But if you're playing somebody from Indiana, and so Tobias and Harden is probably the pairing I would do, where I would pair Embiid and Maxey. Just kind of thinking about Harris and Embiid eating into each other's rebounds a little bit. That's just the pairings that make sense to me. I don't know if that correlation is actual or if that's just how I'm kind of playing out the game in my head. There is a correlation tool, but I haven't had a chance to look at that one today.
You're talking about like upside and variance as far as the guys around Tobias Harris.
Exactly. Like when Embiid is having a ceiling, he'll generally bring somebody on the team with him. I don't have the exact numbers for Philly in front of it, but that is a thing, and there is a tool on RG to compare those things.
Well, I was looking at the contemporaries for Tobias Harris, right? He's 5'8", and some differences in prices, but you're talking about like maybe Harris doesn't have the ceiling necessarily. Like Lauri Markkanen has certainly flashed the ceiling so far with Utah, not much more. A little bit more than that, Keldon Big Body Johnson, if that game could stay tight there with Minnesota. Certainly he's like the 1 or the 1A in San Antonio. Ben Chero, we don't really know yet, but so far that usage has been like 31%. It's elite usage. Like basically, if you look at last year's numbers, his usage this year, small sample, it's all we have. Basically what like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum were last year. It's elite usage numbers there. And there's not a lot of competition, obviously, in Orlando as well. Thoughts as far as Indiana? I mentioned Halliburton. I think Halliburton, if this game stays close, he probably is out there doing his thing. He's been really popular as far as DFS so far this season. Do you have any general thoughts as far as the rotation there? Like, Buddy Hield, have you looked at him like getting yanked all over the place? And Carlisle's kind of been open, like he's going to mess with lineups and he almost doesn't care. And that what we love about NBA DFS, one of the things that we like, so depending on, is the predictability, right? It's the most predictable DFS sport. You can kind of sort of gauge the minutes, pending foul trouble, pending, blowouts. But Indiana's going to be, I don't predict minutes. That's not my job here at RG, but I feel like that's probably the toughest team to put minutes on people. Maybe OKC, probably Indiana.
Yeah, Indiana is definitely up there, and Hield in particular. I mean, he played 30 minutes in the opener and then 15 minutes in their last game. Like when you have that wide of a range, and I don't think it was foul trouble related or anything. Like you said, it's just Carlisle messing with the rotation, trying to find who their best players are and things like that, just to figure out what the core is. Halliburton is definitely part of that core, though. I think his minutes are as secure as anyone's on the team. So agree that he's the clear run back. He's shown a ton of ceiling. He's dishing out a ton of assists. He's the guy that makes sense here. If I'm playing Embiid or Halliburton is the guy I want on Indiana here. I don't want to mess with. If
you're playing Halliburton, do you force one of Harden or Embiid?
The price is coming up, but I don't think you have to. He's still in play, even if Embiid and Harden aren't getting there.
You play at least one sixer, though, right? I think you got to play at least a Maxey or a Harris, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that somebody is getting there. If Halliburton's going off, the game's staying close, which means the Sixers on the other side. I think that's a good line of thinking.
Who's your favorite amongst the nonsense on Indiana as far as Jalen Smith and Jackson and Goga Batadze? He can mop up a little bit too. There's probably different routes for Goga, but also his floor could be rough as well. You got a revenge game for TJ McConnell. Get excited about that. Couldn't consider playing him. Your favorite amongst the nonsense in Indiana?
Yeah, I mean, it's Jackson because he's assuming that he starts. Like if they mess with the starting rotation again, then you could blow all this up. But as of right now, Isaiah Jackson, and as long as that ownership number stays low, if he starts to creep up into that 20% range, I don't love this spot for him. It's a bad matchup. He has to guard Embiid. I think foul trouble is a real concern. So if his ownership starts to creep up here, I would probably pivot to Goga and just hope that Jackson gets into foul trouble and Goga finds his way into 22 minutes or something. Yeah,
it feels like Mathurin's kind of passed it. Chris Duarte, the rookie last season, wouldn't just not necessary for me otherwise. Naismith, even if he starts, I can't imagine I don't think I'm getting there. You running out 20 lineups? That's normally what you do, right?
Yep.
Anything else out in this game that's worth saying? I didn't mention PJ Tucker. Like, we know he's like break glass in case of emergency. If you need 17 fantasy points, no more, no less, and like 2 corner shots from the 3, and maybe he'll make them. It's
I don't think we're that desperate for value on this slate. I think there's some more opening up in Utah and Houston, and that's where all the value on the slate is going to lie. But we'll see if absolutely nothing else nobody else gets ruled out. Maybe he enters the conversation, but even the Houston value that we have right now is better than PJ Tucker.
I wish this game was not at 7:00. I wish it was like a crap game at 7 because I like the pieces here, and I like to punt the 7:00 game if I can get away with it, just buy myself a half hour of time. But we may get news before that. We'll see. As far as I see in chat, somebody was asking about Conley. We kind of touched on it. Nothing out there, but just like logic says he probably sits tonight, but you never really know. Let's talk about Toronto, the Raptors versus Miami Heat. And we kind of touched on this one already. 214.5, not a very appealing total. Miami is a 3.5-point favorite, but there are some body parts that are up for grabs here. Boucher is going to be available for Toronto. I don't know how many minutes he's going to play. Scotty Barnes again. We'll see if he plays. Our projections, I believe, we made a call on projections that they ruled him out, which is kind of a bold call. They usually lean in unless somebody has a hot take. So who's ever doing projections today, I believe they kicked Barnes out. Jump into it right now. Did we put Precious Achiuwa in the starting lineup?
Yeah,
Precious 28. Yeah. And Miami's going to be really thin because they're without Oladipo, they're without Caleb Martin, so some of their wings. A Max Strus might draw the start. We'll see, but they might need him for the second unit as well. He's 3-point dependent, but I think rotations are going to condense. It's hard you can't really project for more than 37, 38 minutes, but that's where we're at. On Siakam 38, FEV 37, OG at 37, Trent 35. The matchup's not great. Everybody's kind of priced where they should be, but they're going to be on the court and there's some opportunity. And I think a lot of it's dependent upon if Barnes is out. If Barnes is in, I think I'm basically, I don't want to say I'm out on Toronto, but they're a little bit less appealing. Like you can still play Pascal. FEV I think is 7-3 on FanDuel, which is fine, but nobody's screaming off the table for me if Barnes is out in.
Siakam is the only one that I have interest in here, regardless of if Barnes plays or not. And that's just because he has a ceiling. Van Vliet will hit a ceiling occasionally, but Siakam does it far more often and has a higher ceiling than Van Vliet. Don't love the overall game environment, but I could see Siakam putting up a big score that I need. The Barnes stuff, like Precious playing all those minutes, Boucher being back definitely kind of cuts into that. And I don't think I even have interest in Achiuwa. Even if he's starting, I don't see him playing 30 plus minutes again. I don't know.
Just worth noting, not to cut you off, but Koloko drew the start in the second half last game, and he got kicked out of the game. And that's what opened the door for Precious. Precious came in, I believe, like the 3 or 4 minute mark or so, and just didn't leave. But Koloko's back tonight. He's available, so maybe he draws the start. I'm not saying to play him necessarily. I'm just saying that's one route where Precious can lose some minutes.
Yeah, and we only have him projected for 28 right now, so we're clearly baking this in that Boucher's going to play and Koloko is back. He's going to play. We have him for 13 right now, but yeah, I mean, if Koloko started, maybe just because he's 3,400, he would be a pivot on Garuba. You would just hope that Koloko can outscore Garuba, and I think that makes sense. But yeah, it's yeah.
What about the Heat? DK is once I thought I was out, they're drawing me back in because Bam Adebayo is back down to 7K, and rightfully so. He's been bad this year. That's just it. He's been bad. The stocks haven't been there traditionally. That's not only one block so far. I was promised that he's going to start shooting some threes. I believe he finally did attempt one. But in theory, he's working on shooting threes. I think he shot one last game, missed. But I just want to know that that's in his repertoire and just he can hit 1 or 2 a game, like B. Stu or something like that. Stewart there in Detroit. Hero's been, in the starting lineup and chucking, and the price is adjusted a little bit, but I think there's still a little bit of meat in that bone. We got Bam on DK at 7K, so he's 15% owned. Hero 6.5 at 14%, and then you got Kyle Lowry. Back-to-back revenge games here for old man Kyle Lowry. He's like, what, 37, 38? How old is Kyle Lowry?
Yeah, he's up there, late 30s.
Yeah, he's like fine, but I don't really want to be over the field on that. Yeah, and if you want to bet on Max Strus hitting like 7 threes, I guess you can play him, but I don't know if I'm getting there. Miami, thoughts?
I don't have a ton of interest in Miami. Hero is the one guy that I will definitely have exposure to. Bam has been so bad, and I don't love this game environment. I don't feel the need to play him into ownership. I think I can do a lot better for 7K. I can find somebody cheaper than him that can put up just as good of a game as Bam. Hero is the guy that I think has the ceiling here just because the price is still a little bit too cheap. I'm not playing Jimmy at 8,900. Like this game environment that we touched on, these are two of the absolute slowest teams in basketball. Two of the 3 slowest teams this year, and obviously a small sample, but if you pull that back to last year, they were 2 of the 5 slowest teams in basketball. So they also don't have the same benefit of playing like the 40 minutes that the Toronto guys can play. So yeah. I'm not looking to end up here. I don't want Butler. I'm not interested in Bam. Hero I will play. I don't know if I need Kyle Lowry yet. Kind of that same 5K range where I'm still figuring out exactly who I'm going to go overweight on in that range. Lowry is in play for that though, just because of that price.
Overall, your favorite play this game is Pascal?
In the game, Pascal, yes. Yep.
Yeah, but I do agree. Amongst the 8, this is one of the lesser appealing, but it's a little bit more than it typically is when it's like, but still not great, right? Let's move on. Another 7:30 game amongst the 8 going down tonight. Orlando in New York, 222.5 is the total. New York is an 8-point favorite here. Start with the Orlando side. You know, they're thin in the backcourt, the absence of Suggs. They're missing somebody else too. Fultz. Well, he's been out basically all season long. It's weird that Terrence Ross is still playing 30-plus minutes for Orlando. He should have been traded like 2 years ago, it feels like. But that's just my take, I suppose. But Wagner's kind of sort of fine. I want to get your Banchero take. Are you buying into this usage? Do you like him? You think, is he a guy that eventually end of the year is like an 8K player and where he's still too cheap?
I mean, he's almost 8K now is part of the problem. But yeah. I do buy the usage. Like, I don't know. Suggs being out is helping him a little bit right now, but not a ton. I still think that he's the guy. Anthony seems more like a secondary piece. Franz is a nice complementary piece, but I don't think either of them are like alpha scorers. Paulo, I think, is the guy here. So I'm buying the usage at least at like 30% probably. I think that's sustainable.
We have a 3% ownership tag on him, which I think is kind of sort of somewhat appealing, I guess. We do have Anthony and Wagner at 13% each on DK, which I guess is about. I mean, I'm okay. I don't need these guys. If it's last man in, if I made a lineup and I have 6-1 left, I don't think I'm going to blow the lineup up, and I'll take Wagner. But I'm not going out of my way to click Wagner, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. The Knicks are another slow team on the other side of this game, so this is not a great spot for Orlando. Pricing is adjusted enough here that Suggs being out, it doesn't really open much up. The Anthony and Wagner prices are fine. Banchero, if you want to take some more shots on that and think there's more ceiling there, totally fine with that. But agree, there's no priorities from this game.
Do you want to say what's up to the chat? I see Don Yeezy in chat talking about Cole Anthony with Suggs out. Yeah, he's 6'2". Yeah, he's fine. Not here to discourage it, but
Yeah, I mean he's in the same range as like a Kyle Lowry. Like they're both fine, and Anthony probably has more ceiling. So, yeah, like you said, I wouldn't kick him out of the lineup if he lands there. But I'm not going out of my way. He's not a guy that I for sure want to be overweight on. Yeah,
not a first man in, but like a guy that just sort of I suppose that if it makes everything else work and it's that's my choice, that's my best option available, I'll go for it. I'm not playing on Yahoo, but Hoosiers Hang Banner says Anthony's $21 on Yahoo. I know the floor over there is 10. Their studs are usually like 55, 60. I haven't played this year. I don't know if they changed things around, but I imagine that's still kind of sort of what it is. But 21 in my head sounds okay on Yahoo. You play over there on Yahoo?
I have not played NBA on Yahoo.
Yeah. Done it before. Like their format, but just doing the shows, time is a commodity, that kind of thing.
Yep.
Wendell Carter's not going to get played. Just like I think that's worth mentioning. Like just playable, I guess. But again, extreme tournament stuff. Anything else on Orlando?
No, that covered it for me.
What do you think of New York? Are you excited about anybody in New York? Why are we getting 11-12% ownership on Quickly? That seems weird. I don't buy that number. That's wrong, right? Like this is going to get changed the closer we get the lock, but he's not going to be 12% owned. Emmanuel Quickly? Did I miss something?
I mean, he did just have 39 DK points, but I don't know that. Like 27 minutes, we have him for 20 right now. Like, I don't know. I think there's enough volatility in the minutes that maybe you could. Yeah, I wouldn't play him at 12%. I know that.
Okay. Just a little surprise. Our projection is 21 points for what it's worth. So basically 5x.
Yeah, it's because of the value thing that we touched on. I think there's going to be more value that opens up. We're not going to need Quickly.
What do you need anything on New York? Brunson burner adapted himself there to New York. Randall, again, I hate to say fine, but like I'm not taking a stand on it, but I'm okay with Randall at 8.2K. I love Hartenstein if I can catch him on the right night. Maybe tonight might be a night to play him, just at least consider, because center feels a little bit weak for an 8-gamer.
Yeah, I like the Hartenstein call, especially because that's where the value is on this slate. I mean, it wouldn't surprise anybody if Houston messes with their rotation and Garuba doesn't play the 25 minutes that he saw in this game. He only plays like 18 and somebody else picks up 23 or something. Like that's not out of the range of outcomes tonight.
I want to have that conversation.
I like cheap. Yep.
Yeah, talk to me about New York. Do you have any like full-fledged priorities here? Because I don't think I have any full-fledged priorities.
No, I don't either. I have very little interest in this game overall. Brunson would probably be my first look. I don't trust what Randall is doing. He's coming off such a rough year. He had a great first game, but then he kind of went back to the Randall that we saw all of last season in their last game. So I don't need to do it on this slate. I don't like this game environment. There's much better games to target on this slate, in my opinion.
Got my eye on Twitter. It's oddly quiet, man. NBA news, just nothing out there just yet. What do they usually meet an hour and a half before game? Typically the coach with the media. Is that the way it is this season as well? Do you know?
I don't know for sure, but I do believe that's how it's been in the past. Yes. Yeah,
I'm just trying to think. Like soon we should start getting some news. The worst is when you get like one guy and like the three guys are questionable and you get the answer for one and the other two are just sitting out there. It's like, was there no follow-up questions? Like, I know the beat writers don't care about our DFS teams, but like, they're getting added enough by a lot of people, I'm sure. We're probably super annoying as a collective, but yeah. All right. That's my own little gripe, I suppose. There's 8 games. I don't know how much we should talk about this New York-Orlando game. I mean, RJ Barrett's there. If you want to play him, sure. I guess you can. Evan Fournier revenge game. I'm not playing Evan Fournier. I think Brunson's probably my favorite play in this game on the New York side. But favorite because you got to pick somebody, I guess.
Yep. I mean, that's pretty much exactly where I'm at, too. Like, Brunson is the guy. If I'm going to play anyone, is probably the guy. But, again, just not a priority at all.
Feel free to fire up some questions if you guys are hanging out with us on the old YouTube. Kind of hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. Yeah, we want to knock out as many questions as possible. We'll actually have it today. I think we're making good pace. The Crunch Time crew, you guys know, if you're not aware, Crunch Time is free this year. Used to be premium. You get Andy Means talking about the slate, breaking it down, give you a really, really good cash game breakdown. If you guys are playing cash games tonight, you are absolutely going to want to watch Andy have that conversation with Kevin Roth and STL Cards. They jump in around 6:25 on the East Coast, give or take you guys up the lock as well. I have really nothing else that's worth mentioning, I don't think, in this game as far as Orlando and New York. You got anything else that's we feel like we should point out, or just kind of move on?
I'm ready to move on.
All right. Brooklyn, Memphis, 233.5 is the total. This is an 8 o'clock game, by the way. Now we get to the 8 o'clock groupings. 233.5 is the total. It's high and it's tight, right? Memphis is a 1-point favorite. So we do like these kind of games. We gravitate to these kind of games. A little bit tricky that, like, there's a lot of expensive players. Kyrie is going to cost you. Durant's going to cost you. Ja Morant, who's been absolutely fabulous, is going to cost you. And also, we just might hear Dylan Brooks' music. And Dylan Brooks, the only one that wants to see Dylan Brooks tonight is Dylan Brooks, because he ruins Memphis. He takes too many shots. He takes a hit on Ja Morant's usage. He would throw Contra to the bench almost definitely, unless they kind of work him back. Or even if he plays like 25 minutes, that'll be enough to kind of dent Contra, I suppose. But yeah, I guess we should start both ways. Let's say that Brooks is in, and I would say he's leaning in just because he was really close last game, and they rolled him out like late. They rolled him in, and then they rolled him out, which to me suggests that he was close. So maybe he plays tonight. Let's say he's in. What are your thoughts as far as Memphis? I think it mucks everything up.
It does, but I'm not entirely uninterested because this is a great matchup here against Brooklyn. They don't play a ton of defense. Great game environment here, decent total, close spread. So I have interest in Morant and Bane. I do think he hurts Conchar a good amount, enough where I would not consider him. And Aldama even, I think, would be tough to play at that point. Might just see a slight downtick in minutes. Not that they play the same role or anything, but just I think Aldama would take a little bit of a backseat. But I still have interest in Bane and Morant either way. Morant, just for the ceiling, this is a really expensive game to play if you want to do like a Morant Durant stack. It's really expensive. So I'm trying to figure out other ways to do that. Desmond Bane is certainly in that conversation. Dude, definitely a major breakout last year, has shot the ball horribly this season. He's under 30%. He shot over 40% last year. That's going to correct itself. He's a better shooter than what he's shown. Bane at 6.5K, totally fine. Brooks does harm the peripherals a little bit. He's still going to score, assuming that shot corrects. And maybe you want to take an underweight stance on Bane just because the shot doesn't look quite right yet. I'm still going to keep playing him just because I think he's a little bit too cheap for what he offers when he is right. It's the overall game environment. I definitely want some exposure. Bane is the cheaper way to do that, but I will have some Ja as well, making him a priority, and that's just because of the ownership. If he's around this 6-7% that we have him right now, I'll probably come in around the 15% mark on Ja.
We got the small sample size theater, but that's what we have as far as this season so far. 2 of the 3 worst defensive teams according to defensive rating. The only one that's worse is the Rockets. We'll talk about them soon enough. But Memphis and Brooklyn, and that kind of speaks to the big total on the board as well. As far as pace so far this year, Memphis is coming in at, I'm giving a quick scroll and I can't find them, 20th, and Brooklyn 21st for what it's worth. A little bit slower than you want them ideally, but again, it's
Memphis played really fast last year though, so I think there's a little bit of correction coming. Like Brooklyn has never played fast, but like they can be so efficient with Durant or Kyrie or whichever star is going off, that can speed up the game too.
Everything considered, salary considered, ownership considered, who's your favorite player on Memphis?
It's tough. It's definitely Ja or Bane. I don't love Bane's ownership number, but I'm probably going to be at the field on that. Ja is the one I will be overweight on, but I don't know that I love his price necessarily either. I guess I like Ja just a little bit better because he can put up the score that just no one on the slate can match. He's the one I'll be overweight on, so I'll say Ja.
It's not hard to be overweight on it. At least you trust.
Right.
If you trust our ownership projection right now, he's 6.4%. Now, I think that would change if Brooks is ruled out. But as things stand right now, and if you think Brooks is going to play, raw points, I got Harden ahead of Morant. Do you?
Yes.
Yeah, but ownership's going to reflect that as well. What about the other side? Because again, there's a couple big spends. We live more with salary cap. It's sort of tough to get to. Both is really hard as far as the Brooklyn pieces. If you want Kyrie if you want Durant. Kyrie at 3-4% ownership. Durant 5 figures. Therefore, he's like 8% owned. We'll talk about Ben Simmons, and we'll also talk about. I saw somebody in chat talking about Claxton, who was a fun play last year. I really liked him. He was like 4K. Now the prices have adjusted to him, but maybe it's justified. We'll see. And not the best matchup going against Steven Adams, like possibly the strongest dude in the league. He had to be strong. He grew up like with 14 brothers and sisters. His whole family is like Olympic athletes and stuff. You ever do the Wikipedia on Steven Adams?
No, I did not know there was that many of them, or that they were Olympians.
There's a whole bunch, yeah. Like, some of his sisters were like Olympic athletes. So it was tough growing up in the Adams family. Well, I didn't even mean to do that, but just sort of worked out that way. Yeah, talk to me about the big spends on Brooklyn. Do you have a preference as far as Durant versus Kyrie? I almost always, if I'm going to pick one of the two, lean toward Durant. What's your general lean?
Yes, always general lean to Durant. We just see the ceiling so much more often out of him. I think like he's not even 1,000 more than Kyrie. I don't know that I'll play any Kyrie. Durant is another guy that I'll make sure I'm overweight on. But like I said, I want the exposure to this game, but to play Ja and KD in the same lineup is really tough. So I think the KD Bane and the Ja, and then we're going to talk about Ben Simmons, unfortunately. But they priced him at a point where he can get there without the basketball, which is what we need him to do. So,
Steven Adams, I shorted him a couple of brothers and sisters. His father, who grew up in the Navy, fathered 18 children with 5 women.
Wow.
So there you go. All right. Yeah, so it's 2 of his half-sisters are athletes. Dame Valerie Adams, a dual Olympic gold medalist, a 4-time world champion shot putter. Of course, there's Lisa Adams, para-athlete who won shot put at Paralympics. Shot put. This is a great shot put family, apparently. And his brothers Warren and Sid Jr. had careers in the New Zealand National Basketball League. So there you go.
Wow. Come for the DFS takes. Stay for the Adams family history.
But did you ever see I can't remember who it was, but there was like a fight, a scuffle, kerfuffle, whatever you want to, an NBA fight. They rarely fight, But like he picked a dude like a 7-footer up, like picked him up.
I remember that.
I can't remember who that was, but it was incredible. It's like this guy has just got the incredible brute strength, Steve Adams. Talking about Ben Simmons, because last time on the last show where I was kind of sort of somewhat, I was on the ledge going back and forth and kind of touting him, but not really, just sort of saying like, this is a guy that used to be like 8K. We're 6'6". And I know like he might just score 6 points, but he also can get you like 11 points and 11 rebounds and 11 assists and 3 steals and 3 blocks and put up that 60 points with 9 points in total, actual points in the bucket. He was on his way last game. He did not get there. And they did play him a ton of minutes too. At least they played him a ton in the first half. I don't know if he got there the entire game, but I don't know. I want to be a little bit early on Ben Simmons. And also, you mentioned Ben Simmons. The people in chat are going to say he sucks. If people hate Ben Simmons, there's a lot of vitriol on Ben Simmons. But I don't think people like playing him. What's your take here?
Yeah, I don't think they do either. And I wouldn't like playing him if he was 8 or 9K like the player that he is. He can put up 10 rebounds and 10 assists. If he scores 10 points, I mean, on DraftKings particularly, where you get the bonus for the triple-double, like that's valuable. At mid 6Ks, like there's a lot of upside here at this price. It's not comfortable. I don't like Ben Simmons as a player either, but he fills the stat sheet. If he can get you double-digit rebounds and assists, he can certainly pay off the price tag. We love the game environment. I'm gonna have some Ben Simmons tonight.
Yeah, Don Easy in chat basically says Simmons is a lot like Draymond when it comes to the box score. This is more important though. Forget about Steven Adams and his 27 brothers and sisters and all the Olympic medals they won. According to Derek in chat, the McRib is going away forever. Not just like taking a hiatus. Starting on Halloween until November 20th is when it officially says goodbye forever. What? I mean, I'm not on the McRib stand, but I thought like, isn't there a certain sect of people that love the McRib? Are you pro McRib?
I'm indifferent to the McRib. It's not something. Go ahead.
Where can we put some action in that it does come back in our lifetime? That's what I need to do.
It's like a boxer, like that's saying this is his last fight, right?
Yeah.
The McRib, it's gonna fight again.
Yeah, there's no way this is the last time the McRib's gonna be.
Yeah.
This is the biggest marketing ploy of all time.
The Rolling Stones had like 6 different farewell tours, right?
I think the Who do it every 4 months. So
it says the McRib is coming back to McDonald's, but for a farewell tour. Okay. Yeah.
Exactly like you said, a rock band's farewell tour. It'll be gone for 6 months. It'll come back next October. Like, surprise, it's back from the dead. You got to hit all those.
Just obsolete that are in the McRib? I don't know what a McRib consists of. I think it's a whole bunch of things going on, but the ingredients just aren't gone, are they? Like they're not extinct. I don't know.
As long as there's trash in New York City to get rid of, the ingredients for the McRib are never ending.
The McRib stands right now are like thumbs down, thumbs down.
It does kind of have a cult following, though, doesn't it? Like there are some.
It's a weird thing to be a cult follower of like a food.
Yeah, I never got like. I mean, it's fine, but like it wouldn't be my first order. Like I ever eat McDonald's anyway, really, but it wouldn't. I don't think it would be my top choice, even when it's on the menu.
I'm going to forward this story to one Grant Neefer, and I think he's going to be really sad, and I'll see if I get a reaction from him on air. But yeah, he's not going to be happy. I feel like just knowing Grant, I feel like he's a McRib guy.
That makes sense.
But, yeah. that checks out.
With his Taco Bell takes, yeah, that seems like right up Grant's alley.
When I was hanging at his house, when I left a bunch of like 10 or 15 different Taco Bell $10 gift cards just in his house. It's just for no particular reason. I wonder if he's so annoyed. Like, who wants a bunch of $10 gift cards? But he just responded to me and says, yeah, saw that. I want to know if he's sad or not. That's what I wanted, a sad reaction. Go back to Brooklyn and talk about Claxton. Kind of mentioned him, like the price is adjusted, but he also played a pile of minutes too. And again, not the greatest matchup in the world, I don't think, against Steven Adams, but he should be on the court because they need whatever size he has to match up with Adams. The peripheral pieces on Brooklyn, where are you at?
Yeah, I don't mind Claxton. 33 minutes in the last game. I don't know that I buy that. He's not a guy who really played a ton of minutes last season. We currently have him for 26. I think that's right where I'm more at. I think there's definitely upside to play 30, but 33 is probably stretching it. I don't know exactly why he got that many. I don't know if
player development. They lost. Was Blake Griffin on the team last year? I think Blake's gone. Right?
Yeah. No, I totally understand. He's in line for more minutes this season, but I don't think he's playing 33 a game for the entire season. I think he's going to be more in that 26 to 28 range.
Yes.
Like maybe Sharp got a couple of quick fouls or whoever's backing him up.
That's what I'm looking at. I'm pulling up the court IQ. I'm trying to see if I can find that really quickly, but I didn't mean to cut you off, but I thought it was worth. We had the same idea, but it's good to know like it's in his bag that he can play 32, 33 if necessary.
Yeah, and the price tag is still at a point where he can pay this off even if he doesn't get 30 minutes. He played 24 minutes in the first game and put up 31 DK points. That's kind of fine for 5,900. So yeah, he's in play for sure. Tougher matchup against Adams, like you mentioned, but we do like the game environment. I'm trying to get some exposure here. If it's not Simmons, like Durant is by far the priority, but Simmons and Claxton I will be using in game stacks.
Yeah, him and Sharp were off the court. Obviously, they weren't played together. They played about 4 minutes when it was neither of them. But I'm trying to see if Sharp got in the foul trouble because he had really short stints. So it probably was Sharp foul trouble. That's pretty good speculation. You got anything else as far as this game that's worth monitoring, worth pointing out? And I'm going to Twitter. I'm trying to find some kind of breaking news. We have not seen anything regarding starting lineups. Okay, we got something. The Knicks starting lineup.
Knicks lineup, yep.
And Brunson, Evan Fournier, Barrett, Randall, and Marcus Robinson. Not surprising there. Are we moving on? You got anything else as far as Memphis, Brooklyn? Give me your favorite thought process as far as this game. Can you game stack it? Maybe a favorite piece?
Yeah, I'm trying to game stack it as often as I can. But the priority stack of Ja and KD is really, really tough to do. So I'm definitely looking at some of these cheaper pieces to go with 1 star on either side, and then use pieces like Simmons from Brooklyn and Bane from Memphis would be my 2 preferred guys. Also have Claxton in play for Brooklyn. I mean, Durant's my overall favorite piece from the game. But the Ja Durant stack is really tough. Bane, I think, is how I'll play this game more so than any other stack.
Grant did respond to me. He said it's a sad day, so he's not happy. He's the flag is at half staff at the Grant household today. Move on. Utah, Houston, 234.5 is the total. It's high and tight as well. The 3-0 Utah Jazz, despite the fact that Danny Ainge is not thrilled with them being 3-0. They're 3-0, and this is an early tankathon game, and maybe Utah's already played themselves out of the tankathon at this point. But they are favored to beat Houston by several points. 234, big boy number as far as the total. We're speculating, at least throwing it out, at least I'm throwing it out, that there's a chance Conley sits on the back-to-back, travel, overtime last night. Old man, played 30, by basketball terms, he's an old man, with 37, 38 minutes or so. Markkanen's been awesome. Olynyk's been great when he's not in foul trouble. Vanderbilt's rebounding like crazy when he's not in foul trouble. He's in foul trouble always. If Conley sits, you got to think Clarkson will get a pile of more shots. Maybe Sexton, they traded for him. Not because they necessarily like him, I don't think, just to kind of part of the rebuild, but maybe he gets a bump as far as minutes. Start with Utah, which, of course, great matchup here against Houston. Really interesting game stack, and it's a cheap one, too.
Exactly. Yep. That's why we're talking about the other games and the expensive pieces, is because this game is going to be the primary target. There's cheap pieces all over. There's high upside. Should be a fast game. Houston plays really fast. They don't play any defense. One of the best matchups in all of basketball. So as well as Utah has played, you have to have exposure to this game, I think. Markkanen has been incredible. 23% ownership is what we're showing on. That's what I haven't refreshed in a while, but that's what I have on the screen. We'll see where that comes up. That seems low to me. I'll be well over that. Olynyk, like 34%, 33%. I'm fine with these ownerships that I'm seeing on this game. Just because of the pricing and the overall game environment, I see myself going way overweight as of right now on this game.
Same.
Like ranking them, I think Markkanen is, like, we've seen just him play so well. I think he's my priority. Olynyk is fine, but you mentioned the foul trouble. Not that there's really anyone that can get him in foul trouble here today with Houston missing some bigs. He
can get himself in foul trouble, but
yeah, he certainly can. And if Şengün plays, I think that's a slight downgrade for Olynyk, because Şengün is the offensive guy that could really take it to Olynyk. But I'll have some Olynyk. I prefer Markkanen. Jordan Clarkson is a guy I have a lot of interest in as well. We've seen him be able to score a ton of points when the Jazz were actually good. He's going to be chucking it like he always does while he's out there. Could certainly see him having a great game in this environment against a really bad Houston defense. If Conley sits, I think Clarkson's ownership comes way up. But Markkanen, Clarkson, Olynyk is how I would rank them right now.
If Conley plays, I love a matchup, but I can't get beyond the context of it being a back-to-back and him being who he is, and playing 36 minutes yesterday. I know he played 36 minutes in back-to-back games. This is not just back-to-back. It's third and 4 nights. Man.
Yeah. This is a guy who would rest on back-to-backs when they were actually competitive. Like, why would he play tonight? Like,
I don't understand. Yeah. I really don't think he plays. But I don't want to also, people – I want to put that out there, but I also don't want people to assume that's what's happening, because, we don't know. That's just – you're just guessing a lot of times. And rarely do you come out and say, these guys are playing. That's, I haven't seen anything that said that Jokic is playing tonight. I just assume Jokic is playing tonight. There's no need for a report for that.
Yeah. I think Clarkson, I just want to touch on Clarkson a little bit more. Without Conley, Clarkson is a guy who saw his rates skyrocket without Conley when the Jazz had other stars there. I imagine that, obviously we don't have a sample size to be able to run that in court IQ or anything, but I imagine Clarkson gets a pretty decent bump here if Conley were to get rolled out.
What about Sexton?
Yeah, I think Sexton would absolutely enter the conversation as well.
Is he playing less minutes this year than so far than you expected? He is for me. I don't think he's got over 20 minutes yet.
Yeah, definitely seems like pitch count. Like they're we're just working him back slowly. I don't think that'll be a season long thing, but definitely early on here. Seems like there's a cap of 20 minutes there. I'd be curious.
What did he have? Was it ACL or knee? That's the same thing, right?
I believe, same thing. I believe it was, yes. I'm not positive on that. It'd be really hard to project this if Conley does get rolled out because we haven't seen Sexton play over 20. We don't know if that's a hard cap or if they just kind of wanted to start him off slowly.
And Vanderbilt feels like a guy that can get like 15 rebounds versus a Houston team that is already, pretty small, right? Bruno Fernando's going to be out. We know Tate's out, potentially no Şengün. This game just might go flat out small in general. We might get that too. And like Olynyk's not like this big center, right? It feels like this game can go really small and it's just flying up and down. That's kind of like, and everybody's cheap. This is like my favorite game on the slate, and it's
it's one of these games that's so bad that it's amazing for DFS.
Yes,
and like Utah, they've been really good, obviously, but we don't expect them. Like I don't think they're going to run away from Houston here. Houston has plenty of offensive firepower, so expect the game to be pretty close. And like you said, the pace should be fantastic here. It's easily my favorite game, and just because of the pricing. Like I think Brooklyn-Memphis is every bit as good of a game environment, but this game's half the price of that game.
Yes, like you can stack this game and get Embiid or James Harden.
Yep.
You can get a stud elsewhere with a nice game stack, and everybody seems like pretty good math plays. Can you rank the Utah side with what we know as of right now? Because again, we're just speculating as far as Conley. As of now, I guess we can assume he's in.
Scotty Barnes just got rolled out.
Yeah, we knew that was coming. There we go.
And Magic will start Anthony Ross, Franz, Banchero, and Carter Jr.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty straightforward. I wonder who Toronto starts. If Precious starts, he's kind of interesting, but yeah, I don't know how much will be
with Boucher in there. I don't know if he is interesting. There is definitely upside on the minutes. I don't disagree with you. I don't know. Like
Boucher's not going to play more minutes than Barnes would have played, so there's more minutes to go around if we're going to do it that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I don't think he gets upper 30s like the rest of the starters.
Fair.
I think Boucher is going to play 20 or so.
If he plays, I don't know. This is his first game of the year. It's Nick Nurse, so he hates him, but also if he plays you, he doesn't care how long if you're doing well.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen him play like 6 guys before too.
Yes. Talk to me about the Houston side because they're pretty interesting. I think Green is a little bit underpriced these days. Probably got to adjust. And he's taken a step forward as far as his game. He looks more, better than he was when he came out as a rookie. As a rookie, he was just like a lot of talent. You can see the talent, but he just wasn't a great refined basketball player. He's still kind of figuring it out, but I like the progression he's taken. As far as ownership, he's getting 20%. Garuba, we're projecting 25 minutes and 20% ownership. Even if Şengün plays, I presume Garuba is going to be the starter. We're expecting Gordon back from his rest. It's just who does he talk to on that team? Isn't everybody 22 on that team? And there's 35-year-old Eric Gordon. The Houston side. What do you got?
All of it. I absolutely love them all. Jalen Green is going to be my first look. Love the ceiling that he offers. Guy has been able to put up points in a hurry here, dating back to the last month of last season. Picked up right where he left off on that. He already has a 30-point game here this season. He's in he's going to score 20 points a night pretty easily. I think this Utah defense isn't scary to me. Jalen Green being a little bit cheaper than Porter Jr. has him as the priority. I think Porter is absolutely in play. I probably end up overweight on both of them. I haven't decided yet if I'm playing a ton of them together, just because I think they their ceilings are a little bit negatively correlated, but they're still cheap enough to where they could absolutely both hit a ceiling. I probably won't have anything that limits them together. Probably end up both overweight on both, but prefer Green just slightly. Both fantastic plays. Garuba, assuming he grabs the start, cheapest value on the slate, probably. Not a ton of ceiling, in my opinion. I don't think he gets, I think 30 would be an absolute cap on the minutes. I totally agree with the 25 minutes that we saw last game. I think that's the right projection for sure. If Şengün were to sit, it gets really interesting. If Şengün's in there, I'm playing him. Like, we've seen that guy smash in 20 minutes before. Like you said,
if he sits, I think could be really.
There you go. Yep, that's.
Go ahead.
I did the morning grind with Grant last night, and one of the questions at the end of the show is the get weird GPP play, and I think Tari Eason is my favorite play on the slate if Şengün gets rolled out. He's 47. It's not like he's min price, but he's a guy that we could see run into 25, 26 minutes, and not a huge sample, but I think he can be a pretty decent producer. So I love that Tari Eason call.
What's the most we talk about game stack, and I think there's different ways of saying that, because I would say like a game stack is kind of, well, Embiid and Halliburton's kind of a game stack. Like, there's some correlation, but it's not a game stack, right? But yeah, I guess I'm saying, how many players could you? Because I think theoretically, I just was messing around. Like, I put in, don't copy this, but Porter, Green, and Garuba from the Houston side, Markkanen, Olynyk, Vanderbilt from the Utah side. I have 2 spots left and 8.3 left per player. So like I said, you can get 2 really good players in addition to a game stack. How many players are you willing to play in this game? This isn't baseball where you can just play all the players in the same game. Theoretically, rarely can you do that. But what's the most? Would you run 3-3? Because I think you can.
You can absolutely run 3-3, and it's because they're all priced below 8K. Just double check. Yeah, there's nobody above 7,300 of Porter Jr. So this game is so cheap that I think 6 guys from this game is without a doubt in play. And I'm generally a guy that takes pretty aggressive stands on limiting, like when the Spurs were chalk value a couple days ago. Like you just limit those to like 2 or 3 max. I think you could go 3 for sure on either side of this game.
I'm the same way, but I'm open to, which I typically am not. I'm open to 3-3 in this game because all the stars are lining up, especially if we have Conley out, especially if we I shouldn't say especially necessarily, but certainly either way, I guess, as far as Şengün and the Houston side. And, got my eye on Twitter because, again, 7:30 start. This is the 8 o'clock start. So maybe we're getting this one. Andy might get this news. We'll see. An hour and a half before that game starts. So 6:30, Andy, SDL Cards, Kevin Roth. We love this game. We're very, very clear about loving this game. I don't know if he mentioned KJ Martin, but certainly he's available too on the Houston side. Mr. Richard, that's a good question. If you're making a script, right, you're playing your 20 lineups, would you make sure you're playing at least one player on each side of this game?
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't hate that either.
How does it? Somebody from this each side is getting there because of the pricing.
Yeah, this is how it's like. Baseball could just be like a 1-0 game, and they're all worthless. But the score is going to be, I don't know, at worst like 98-102, something like that.
Even if that goes way under, one of these guys is still getting there for sure. So I like that rule. Yep.
We got anything else, or shall we move on?
We can move on.
We need a catch me up game. Somehow we got derailed. Boston, Chicago, 225.5 is the total. Boston is a 5-point favorite here against the Bulls. I have nobody on the Bulls. Do you like anybody on the Bulls?
I do not. DeRozan, if I had to choose somebody, Vucevic, you could talk me into, just because we talked about center not being horribly strong. Neither of them are priorities, though. I'm talking like 5-10% exposure.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. Like, whatever. If you're playing up ton of lineups, I'm not saying they're not playable, but it's just not a very nothing really jumps off the page with Levine being back. All right, talk to me about Boston. Jason Tatum, he's really good. He's been really good this year. Where is he when it comes to comparing him versus his contemporaries, versus John Morant, versus Embiid, versus Harden? Where do you have Tatum? I know different position, but similar salary.
Yeah, Tatum is absolutely in that conversation. He's slightly behind Harden and Ja, I believe, just because of the game environment here. Not that the Bulls are a tough matchup necessarily, but Boston plays slow. I don't know. The Bulls are just a hard team to target. That like I can't figure them out, and I don't know. I just don't like the game environment. It's difficult to play a bull on the other side of him, so that's going to lower my Tatum exposure just in general, kind of, because I want ceiling games. Tatum certainly has that ceiling. I want to play some Tatum, which is what's going to force guys like Vucevic into my lineup when just on paper they're not great plays. Tatum is in the conversation, but I just don't like his game environment as much as the other guys.
You mentioned ceiling, and I don't love Marcus Smart, but like he's a good math play, right? I think optimals are spinning him out also for cash games. Last I checked on DK, he's sort of fine, but he's kind of like Tobias Harris, right? Like he's probably not going to break you. He's probably not going to make you. I don't know if I want to have like 30% Marcus Smart though. So the rest of the Celtics, you have a thought? Horford's back from his back-to-back rest. Yeah, like Smart's fine, but nothing else excites me here, is what I'm saying.
No,
I can't say.
It's Tatum only for me on Boston. Jalen Brown, if you wanted to take a shot on ceiling with him, but I don't have any interest in anybody outside of Tatum.
Don Yeezy's asking about Grant Williams. Like, with Horford being back and with Grant Williams being Grant Williams, I mean, it's not necessary for me.
I like your Hartenstein call over that. I like Tari Eason over that. I think I might prefer Tari Eason even if Şengün plays. Like,
what do we project him for? About 20 minutes if Şengün's in?
Yeah, not even that. I don't think it was.
Not even
18 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
16 points. You got Grant Williams at 20 minutes, 20 points. So.
Yeah, but like I would agree that the higher
ceiling, upside. Yeah.
Yeah, Eason's got a bigger ceiling, no matter what the situation is with Şengün. What has to happen? We've seen Grant Williams. Then he went off in a playoff game, if I'm not mistaken. That happened like once, but when several pieces are out. But
he hit like 4 or 5 threes. It might have even been more than that.
Yes, that's where my brain goes. But like that's if you want to shoot for that, and if that happens, so be it. I lose in the 1% that has Grant Williams. Congratulations. Let's talk about San Antonio and Minnesota. Minnesota is a favorite here. They're an 8-point favorite versus the Spurs, 235, big boy number. They did lose last time out versus Utah, still kind of figuring out how to work in Rudy Gobert. San Antonio, 1-1A as far as Devin Vassell. He's popping in cash games as well. The price is not fully adjusted to his new role. And you got Keldon Johnson, and then Trey Jones got a pretty appealing price, reasonably appealing on the San Antonio side. I don't know what team. Dealer's choice. Where do you want to start as far as this game?
Let's start with San Antonio because I think it's the easier one to break down. Like they're tank mode, obviously here. So we've got underpriced guys early in the season who have massive roles. Vassell, you mentioned, he'd be my priority. Keldon is right there next to him. I like Trey Jones as well. Love like 5K, totally fine. We haven't really seen him put up a big number yet this season, but he's done it filling in for DeJounte Murray in the past obviously that's when he's like 3,500 up to 5K now. It's harder for him to hit a ceiling, but there's certainly a ceiling still in there for Trey Jones. So I love him as a value play. Pirtle, tough matchup with Gobert and even Towns on the other side. I don't know that I really need to go there today. But Vassell, Keldon, Trey Jones, great plays, all three of them.
Paul George ruled out tomorrow because of illness, and Marcus Morris not playing also. The Clippers are going to be another fun team all season long with their Kawhi nonsense too and John Wall nonsense. The regular season doesn't mean anything. They know this. Talk to me about Minnesota.
So somebody from Minnesota is winning someone a GPP tonight. I don't know which guy it's going to be though. It's really tough, but I mean, these ownerships are just incredible. The Spurs are going to be a matchup. They've entered that Houston conversation, right? They play really fast. They don't play any defense. The Spurs are one of but like the opponent is what I'm talking about. So like this spot for Minnesota is absolutely incredible. Like it's an elite matchup here. But Minnesota has 4 stars. I think any of the 4 of them could go off on a night. Edwards is very, very clearly the guy I think will do it more often than the others. You could put Towns right in that conversation as well. And then obviously you have Gobert and Russell as well, who have shown ceilings. in the past. This particular matchup with the way the Spurs play, I think I'm looking at the guards. Edwards and Russell are the two. But that Towns ownership, now I'm reconsidering that a little bit. Like Towns and Russell are both projecting under 10% right now. 5% for Towns, 1% for Russell. I love both of those guys.
I imagine Towns gets a little more ownership on FanDuel, just the way price works. I think he's in the 8s over there. He's 9-2. He hasn't fully adjusted with life of the Gobert. He hasn't been spectacular just yet. But I think they kind of figure it out, I suppose. Like his rebound rate should take a hit. It's hard for it not to. If you're going to prioritize like one of these studs, did you give Russell full stud status? Is it 3.5 studs or 4 studs?
And 3.5 is probably closer, but he does have a ceiling. Like there's a 50-point ceiling here for D'Angelo Russell. Obviously, we haven't seen it with Gobert. It's a little bit harder for him to access it, probably, but it's something he's accessed multiple times throughout his career. It's certainly in there. He did have 47 the other night too.
Go ahead.
He did have 47. I just pulled up his game log to see how close he had come to that 50-point number that I threw out. He had 47.
You want to get excited? I don't know if you're excited or not, but it might be Tari Eason season. You know who just got ruled out?
Şengün.
Alperen Şengün, he had the fish, not feeling particularly well. He's been ruled out. Right on cue, we have in chat, Sam's asking about Garuba. I presume Garuba starts. I'm curious to see how our projection team's going to work on that. But yeah, Houston's going to be pretty small, right? They're down several bigs. No Tate, no Bruno Fernando is a big boy, no Şengün. They know they want to lose this game too.
Yes.
Like this is an important game. I mean, come out the gate like 0-4. It's a nice statement game for them. If just kind of we're here to win it as far as the Tank Wars. They do it in style. They're a fun team to watch. I appreciate that. But how much does that, if we can sort of walk back for a second, and Andy and STL Cards are coming on in about 5-10 minutes or so. They'll break it down as well, and I'll see what our projection team has. But in your head, like how much more exciting does that make Garuba and or Eason? I think Eason's a little bit more, like Eason just feels more sexy, right?
So, yes, absolutely. It doesn't impact Garuba hardly at all for me. I don't think he's a guy that will play 30 minutes. I think like 28 is probably where his projection ends up. I guess he could go into the low 30s, but Eason I feel like is the guy that gets the big jump here. Jabari Smith is somebody we didn't talk a ton about. He's obviously very much in play. Super talented rookie. Should have a massive
his minutes are already there though. We already had him. He's not getting more minutes.
Correct. Yeah. But he could see the rebounding rate improve a little bit. I mean, I think this raises his ceiling a little bit. He was already a great play. We didn't talk about him much, but he's absolutely in play as part of this game environment. But yeah, very slight bump for Garuba for me, a massive bump for Eason.
The chat's talking about Boban.
KJ Martin is
he's 34 and like can't. I mean, look, it's a cute story. We all love Boban, but I think it's over. And also, this game's just going to be smaller. Like he would. Yeah,
you nailed it. That's it right there. Like, look at Utah's roster. They don't have anyone that's like they're not going to play a true 5 on the floor for 48 minutes. I don't think.
No, like Vanderbilt or Olynyk, or I mean, Kessler's.
Yeah, but Vanderbilt's not. Vanderbilt would be a small ball 5. I would.
Yeah. That's exactly. Yeah. I'm not saying he's a big center. Yeah, just looking at the bodies they have. Like you might get Boban dusted off and it's cute and all that, but like he's not going to play more than like 10 minutes. I don't think.
Yeah, this game's going small. I think, and I love it. But it just like I liked Şengün, but I like the game environment even more now.
Oh yeah. I mean, we should just talk about Utah, Houston, the entire slate, the entire show. The last game at 10 o'clock, we kind of touched on it earlier in the show. Denver versus Portland, 226 is the total. Denver is a 5-point favorite. Jokic is an interesting pivot away from Embiid. If you look at ownership, Embiid's distinctly higher as far, kind of a direct pivot there. And we know Jokic can get that triple-double, pretty much whenever he wants. Nurkic, big body, does play him pretty well historically, but it's still Jokic. Porter is pretty reasonable as far as his asking price. Lillard, you talked about it earlier in the show, better positioned for success on FanDuel when you consider salary. We touched on Josh Hart as kind of a guy that makes stuff work, good rebounder, just a little bit too cheap on both sites. But Give me a minute or so on Denver, Portland. The Crunch Time crew will be coming in here shortly, but I wanted to touch on this game before we hand it off.
Yeah, I feel like this game's going to get left out just because of Utah-Houston being the star of the slate. I like San Diego, Minnesota a ton, but I like this Denver-Portland game a good amount as well. And Brooklyn-Memphis obviously is the other one. Like, I think a lot of people are tying up roster spots with those 3 8:00 games. And Denver-Portland kind of falls by the wayside a little bit. Jokic coming in at 10%, just get overweight on Jokic anytime he's coming in at that number. MPJ is too cheap, 6K, a guy who can shoot the lights out when he gets hot. Has had a few rebounds. Like, the peripherals aren't fantastic, but if he gets hot shooting, he can put up some good points. At 6K, certainly in play. Even with Murray back in there, I don't know that I trust Murray to play enough minutes not going there. So Jokic and MPJ would be the two for me on Denver.
Just want to let you guys know in chat, Kevin Roth, when he pulls questions, and he'll probably mention this when he comes on as well, but he goes first to the RotoGrinders Discord channel. If you guys are premium members, that's where he's going to get those questions from. And then he'll jump over to YouTube. Kindly, if you guys are on YouTube, hit that like button. We appreciate it. It keeps the lights on. Turn on those notifications so you know when we're going live. And again, Roth will do his best to answer those questions as well, too. But we do prioritize the premium members in the premium Discord channel. That's why I don't think he's ignoring you. Understand he's getting those questions first there. And then feel free to fire them off. And Andy and STL Cards will answer those when they jump in here in a few minutes. Dylan Brooks, by the way, Dylan Brooks update, the dreaded updated game time decision. So that's worthless. That's
what we saw on Sunday, I believe it was, also, and then ended up getting rolled out. So,
speaking of NBA, are you guys ready to do your crossover with another show?
Are they all here? Are they all hanging out?
Oh, they are. But I just wanted to make sure I got that terrible joke in. I'm going to do it every Monday.
Oh, it took me a second to get there. Okay.
All right. I'll bring it in.
Could work in like a Jamal Crawford reference or something like that. But hey, Kevin Roth, what's up, dude?
It took me a while too. He mean like crossover because it's a move in basketball, but man, that took me a long time.
Do you guys watch basketball, or does everyone just do other things? What is going on over here?
I cannot wait to watch Houston versus Utah tonight. It's going to be phenomenal. I'm super excited.
Good basketball. I'm good. Dino, how are you, man?
Yeah, dude, doing well. No major complaints. It's a Monday. I mean, look, we don't have time to get into it. I have a litany, I'm sure, but like the people don't want to hear that. They want to hear what Andy Means has to say about Alperen Sengun. We talked about it, Means, as far as Boban getting dusted off. I don't think our projections have yet updated it, but this game's just going to go small and it's going to be phenomenal, right? Utah and Houston.
I mean, spoken like a true DFS person, if you're excited to watch Houston and Utah, right?
How angry is Danny Ainge that they're 3-0? He's furious, right?
How angry am I? I wrote up the freaking Utah under wins for the season.
Oh, what was the number? Like 26?
It's like 25.5, I think.
Oh, you're already dead. Does Mike Conley play tonight, Andy?
Yes.
Why?
Is my video way behind my words right now, or is that just me?
It's so crazy. It's really freaking me out.
Yeah, it's really bad.
It's pretty
you've been tech issues.
I'm back. I'm back. That's why
Yeah.
I'm back. Once I just hit a freaking refresh on my share screen, it started slowing me down. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Jazz could also Danny Ainge could just pull the plug and they could go 3-79. So that wouldn't surprise me either. You never know with Wembanyama. So we'll see what happens.
I mean, Mike Conley is 137 years old. He played 39 minutes last night in back-to-back. Not that many, but close. They traveled. He sat back-to-backs last year when the games were quote-unquote meaningful. I don't. Why? Is it just what makes you say? Has there been anything out there? Or just
that he's not on the injury report, and of course he could still pop up, but they're theoretically supposed to put him on there by now. So that's never stopped people before, of course. But until I see otherwise, you just got to operate under the assumption he's going to play, I guess. I don't know. Maybe they want to keep the winning streak going.
They do not want to keep the winning streak.
Yeah, they do. They want to make sure they make the playoffs and get the 8 seed or the 9 seed and get the playoff.
They call that the Dean, don't they, Carl?
Yeah,
get
absolutely.
The Warriors. Congratulations, good season. The Kings actually want that. The Kings would love to get the 9 seed or the 8 seed. That's the worst
Oh, they're
organization.
pinging banners if they do that.
Oh yeah.
Playoff participant 2023. You can see it now.
Throw the banner up. Cards, are you with me on Conley? Am I just talking a butt?
With you on just
he gonna
you are
play?
assuming he's not going to play.
It's egregious. Like, you just can't allow him to play.
They're 3-0. They're 3-0, and
Well,
nobody.
76ers they're 0-3. Should they just tank the rest of the season?
According to you,
No, that's just backwards. I mean, I could see him playing and only playing like 20 some minutes, I guess, but
Okay.
unless we see that, the Jazz haven't ever really been the surprise last minute late scratches, have they?
not that I
I don't
remember.
think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think either.
When was the last time they were like a full tank mode team though? When Danny Ainge was in
Yeah.
charge?
They're 3-0. They're not tanking.
Oh,
They're going to make the
stop it.
playoffs. They're going to be the 8th seed.
I had a tweet fired up whenever it was Halliburton chalk night, and Carlisle was like doing the 12 or 13 minutes thing in the first half. I was like, all right, if this is going to be a thing, like in game 2, if we're like legitimately tanking in game 2, we just need to start from scratch in the NBA, because that's ridiculous if we're legitimately tanking in game 2. At least like put up the facade you're trying and still lose and then start tanking. You cannot do it in game 2, but at least Halliburton came back. They played well and everything. I was getting fired up.
It was a statement game though. The Pacers are making a statement. Like, we're making a run for this.
Yeah, I mean, I was not having that if that was going to happen.
You saw Buddy Hield's minutes get yanked. I'm sure you saw that, Andy.
Yeah.
Like I tweeted out earlier today. I wish every one of these Pacers were like 10K and I could just cross them all out. I hate it.
And it's going to be like that all year for like 4 or 5 teams.
Yeah, but right there on my list. They made the list so far, but we should step aside and let you guys break down the slate. A lot going on and some news kind of sprinkling in. You got anything else, Keith, before we step aside and make way for the boys?
What's up, Ice?
What's going
up,
on?
Ice?
Long
You
time
get
no
on some
talk.
crunch times too, man.
Wednesday, I believe I'm on with you.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Keith's getting demoted to crunch time. He was promoted to I don't know, what is the first half of this GrindersLive pod? I don't know what we call it, but yeah.
I don't think
Keith,
that's how
welcome
it
back.
works, Dean. I don't think that's accurate. I think you're wrong.
Just because it's later doesn't mean that's the major. Maybe
It's a
it's
prime time show.
Dean says he's got seniority on you, Roth.
True.
No, that's all right. Look. I can be like Major League 3 back to the minors. I'm okay with that. Me and the Bees will be hanging out. That was a reference for Cards because I know
That-
Cards
Downtown
are-
Anderson?
That movie was horrible.
Is that downtown Anderson?
Oh, I don't remember. I haven't
I-
seen it before.
Yeah, I could give you a lot of stuff from 1 and 2, but I can't tell you too much about the third one.
Yeah, 3 I blocked out, Andy. But if you just had a pull from a back to the minors, Major League 3, congratulations. I got nothing on it though. Questions are landing up there in chat. Of course, Roth, you're going to prioritize Discord channel. Myself and Keith, we're going to step aside, make some lineups. We're going to stack up Utah and Houston. That is the first portion of Crunch Time. The Fanduel sponsored Crunch Time version starts now. The A-League, the minor leaguers are going to step aside and make way for the big leaguers. It's Chief Meteorologist Kevin Roth. Roth, take it away.
It is true. This is the moment you've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed crunch time. And yes, it is sponsored by FanDuel. Make sure that if you haven't signed up, you got to sign up for the FanDuel Sportsbook in legal sports betting states. Take advantage of their fantastic bonus offer. You bet $5, get $150 in free bets and a free 3-month pass to NBA League Pass. Terms and conditions apply, but make sure you are checking that out. Pretty cool deal there. A couple pretty cool hosts here. One, Mr. Andy Meansy, you feeling good about this slate? I feel like there's things happening. There's some moving, some shaking.
Yeah, I feel good about this slate. Not too much news, not an overwhelming amount of games. I feel good.
Okay, excellent. We got STL Cards as well. Cards here for the GPP takes. Cards, you got some GPP hot takes for us?
We'll try to come up with some hot takes. This is it's been a weird start to the year. There's been like little to no news that's been super impactful breaking throughout the day. I know I've probably just cursed this, but the first, say, 4 or 5 days of the season from an NBA perspective, we've had it kind of easy. But that also does mean that there's not a lot of, screaming punt value plays that everyone's trying to jam in, and that does kind of serve to spread out ownership a little bit. to some degree, because there's a bunch of different ways you can go. The more balanced build still makes sense, whereas in April and March and those later months, it's just going to be stars and scrubs every night. So it does provide you with some different paths for roster construction, and you should be maybe a decent slate tonight. A few lower scoring games to start things off. I think you'll see a lot of people backloading their lineups with some of those games that start at 8 o'clock and later. Not as much that's exciting here in these first games that start at 7:30.
Okay, very good. Well, we will get your takes and your plays here in just a bit. But first, Means, why don't you give us kind of an overview? Dean and everyone's talking about this Houston game as kind of is that the key game tonight?
It's like good game environment, two tanking teams. Allegedly two tanking teams. And they're good price tags. Şengün just got ruled out, so it's one of them. But there's a couple good ones too. Like a lot of these teams that are quote unquote tanking are like just rightfully so. They're awful defensively, and most of them play fast. So like Pacers, Spurs, Rockets. I'd have to double check what the Jazz pace and whatnot looks like. But like I know for a fact those first three teams play really fast. So like it's not just because they're always gonna have cheap price tags either. Like they're good game environments. So not too much from like injury situation, because we got the Scotty Barnes news earlier. We just got the Şengün news. I'm afraid to refresh my page because then it takes me 35 seconds to come back into the mix here and see my face. So that's not frozen. So I don't have too much to add as far as like zoom out stuff. Cards, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Okay, well then let's dive into it. Play-by-play means start us off with a little FanDuel cash, and we like to start talking some guards. I mean, you can start wherever the hell you want, to be fair, but usually we start guards. I'm going to start guards. You're right.
I got two guys tagged in general on FanDuel. I got Vassell tagged again on both sites. I have Embiid tagged at center. Embiid's kind of in that spot where he's like all the other studs priced around him he's just better per minute historically, and then he's like $700 or $900 cheaper than Jokic, who's going through his own ups and downs early on in the season. So he's just really easy to fit. So I think you play him ever since the first game. And for Vassell, ever since the first game when he kind of struggled with the shot, he's looked really good in these last two games. Usage rate up, assist rate up. Minute is averaging like 5 more minutes per game. Like it's really sometimes it's just that easy. Like you do more, you play more, you're going to get more fantasy points. So that's why we're going with him. The other guard spots here. So a lot of the rest of the action here for FanDuel is going to be in this 6 to 7K range, and you probably can like spend on one more guy if you want. But a lot of the guys I'm going to mention are going to be in this range. So like if I'm just going to look at point guards actually. If I'm just looking at point guards, I have I really like Jalen Green. Like he has not scored below 30 FanDuel points yet in a game, and the two that he scored like right around 30, he shot terribly. So like I feel like that's a really good floor to have. Oh, you shoot terribly, I'm still going to get 30. If I shoot well, I'm going to get like 40. So okay, great, play him. He's 900 cheaper than his teammate, who Kevin Porter is also a good spot there. James Harden is. So I wrote about this on DK, and I have Harden tagged on DK. So like, and he's projecting as like our first or second best player on DraftKings. But if you look at FanDuel, if you just look at his underlying rates in general compared to like what we have, he's projecting really well, and we're still like kind of below what he's done this season as far as like usage rate and assist rate. So like, I like having that little extra room up that you can get a little more aggressive. So I think he is cash viable on FanDuel. I don't think our projections will spit him out if you're just clicking buttons, but I think you can play him. There is a lot of risk with him and Embiid just because they're playing the Pacers, but the Sixers are 0-3. So, like, you can't just be going into these games, willy-nilly, like, oh, we're up 15, I'm not bringing Embiid back in. Like, maybe they do bring Embiid back in because they need to freaking win. So I'm not as worried about it just because of the contextual factors in play here. Let's go over to shooting guard, where we have like the same range I was talking about. I already talked about Green. You have Desmond Bane there. You have Tyler Hero there. You have Franz Wagner there. Those guys are all fine. I don't have a particular preference out of any of them. All cash viable. what I will say, and I'll move it over to small forward, is I really, really like Anthony Edwards tonight, especially on FanDuel where he's 7-4. I think he's going to have a big game tonight. This is one of their better matchups of the season, early season so far. Like I know they played the Thunder the other day. The Thunder are actually like sneaky good at defense. Like I know they have sucked the past X amount of years, but if you actually look at how Dagnall has them defending, they're usually like at least top half of the league-ish in defending, and they don't play that fast. Whereas the Spurs, they play fast and they're terrible defensively. So I think this is Edwards' first big night of the season from a fantasy perspective. Love him on both sides, but I think he's very much in the cash discussion on FanDuel at small forward. Not going to go through really any of these other ones because I mentioned most of them already at another position. So power forward. All right. So this is where you really get into this like 4K range of how are we differentiating these guys? Because you're playing at least one of these guys here. And the guys I'm talking about, Olenek 4.8, Precious Achua 4.5, Aldama's 4.1 again, I think. Garuba now is 4.1. We know with no Shingun. So like, I think you're probably going double cheap here, which lets you get a Harden, lets you get an Anthony Edwards. That's what I would be doing. I didn't mention Ben Simmons at point guard just because I don't want. He projects really well for us. He's had an 11% usage rate in the first two games. Like, sorry, I don't want to play you. Yeah, you had like 30 some FanDuel points in your last game because you got 10 boards and 8 assists. He doesn't shoot. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not playing a dude. Like, I'm not counting on you getting 10 boards and 8 assists when you play with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. Just sorry. I mean, not cash game guy for me personally. I love him for tournaments. If he actually like just lands into some offensive rebounds, some tip ins, some transition buckets, or decides to actually be aggressive, then yeah, he could get you like 45. But I'm not playing. I wouldn't play him in cash games. So that's my take on that dude. But yeah, in general, power forward, I think you go to double cheap here. Center, not much for me to talk about because I think you just play Embiid. Other options that you could play here would be guys that I already mentioned at power forward. So unless it's like Jakob Poeltl, I could see you playing him, but just play Embiid. So I'm done. Okay, very good. Cards, let's talk some FanDuel GPP takes here. Anything in general, or you want to kind of go through position by position?
Yeah, we can go by position. I like how Meansy mentioned, if Ben Simmons decides to shoot, if he decides to shoot, he's not gonna end up with any more fantasy points than if he doesn't, because he's not gonna make them anyways. But unless he does get some layups, I do think he's in play for tournaments at that salary. I mean, yeah, a few more buckets, and he could kind of dumb his way into a triple double. He did have 10 boards and 8 assists, as Meansy mentioned in that last game, but I don't think you have to make him a priority by any means. Given the fact that it's not like he's going to score. He's not like he's going to break the slate by scoring, 30 points. So right. I think the guard spots are perhaps the most interesting places to get different in GPPs tonight, because all of the mid-range guards grade out so well, like Porter's 72, Simmons is 64, Trey Jones is 54, Jalen Green is 63. You even got guys like Brunson and Marcus Smart. If you sort our point guards by projected ownership, it's like the top 8 guys are all mid-range plays. And so basically everybody else is going under owned, because people aren't prioritizing, Harden or Ja Morant tonight. And Morant was great the first 2 games. Didn't play well the last time out, but that game got a little out of hand. I think he's fine in GPPs. But one of my favorite tournament plays of the night is at this position, and that's Tyrese Maxey, who we've got at 3% ownership right now, particularly if you're not playing Harden, if you're not playing Embiid. Philly is 0-3, as we've said, and they're projected to score 120 points. So if you're not playing those other guys, those points have to come from somewhere. And I think in some GPP lineups it makes sense. You leave off one of the 2 studs. Maybe you put Maxey in there. And remember, this guy was, the highest owned player on the slate the first night of the year, which was, granted, it was only a 2-game slate. But we haven't seen that ceiling game yet. But this is obviously a better matchup here. We know the minutes are going to be there. And I think he gets there tonight with his best performance of the year so far. So like Maxey, you can play him in either guard spot. In GPPs, Tyler Hero, another guy, shooting guard, small forward. don't be fooled by the game log the last time out. He had 5 fouls. Got held to like 22 minutes, I think, because he was in foul trouble basically the whole game. So not the most ideal matchup, but he is starting now. And at 6,500, decent ceiling there in GPPs. Otherwise, I agree, that I'm not going to touch on Edwards. I kind of share Meansy's thoughts on him against San Antonio. Perfect spot for him to potentially have a ceiling game as well in his best game of the year so far. So those are some wing guys that I like a little bit. Small forward, almost all of these guys are multi-position eligible, so we'll go small forward, power forward together. Franz Wagner, I think, is interesting in GPPs at 5,900 on FanDuel. He's been steady so far, 35 minutes basically every game, taking quite a few shots. Orlando's a little bit thin for offensive punch, so at that salary, I think he makes sense in GPPs. Siakam is interesting in tournaments because he's a little expensive, and when you see him at 9K, I think that's going to keep almost everybody away. Decent contrarian spot to spend up as well, with kind of everybody playing Olynyk. Desmond Bane will be somewhat popular. We've got Hartenstein grading out pretty well in projections, so paying up for Siakam will be a little bit different, I think, at power forward. And then center, basically, if it's not Embiid or Olynyk, who you're probably playing at power forward anyway, it's going to be a guy that gets pretty low ownership. So, nobody's playing Jokic tonight, relatively speaking. We got him at a third of the ownership of Embiid because they project basically the same, but Jokic is $1,000, $900 more expensive. But you can always play him in tournaments for the triple-double potential. Rudy Gobert can easily grab 20-plus rebounds against San Antonio tonight. It is the second game of a back-to-back for them, but I don't mind him in GPPs. Randall, I think, is okay for tournaments. So really interesting slate, I think, from a GPP perspective. I think you could also maybe run a game stack, too. It's a short enough slate. The most common one will probably be that Utah game, but I think the Spurs-Wolves game is good for a game stack as well.
Okay, very nice. Means let's kick things over to DK here. What is different, or you can just start the build, and work your way through.
Yeah, a little bit different. One last thing I want to mention on power forward, I really like Jabari Smith. I don't want to steal Card's thunder, but I like him as a tournament pivot because A, he could be a pivot off of Garuba, teammates, but B, everyone's going to play either, if they're according to our projections, going to be Ben Simmons or a 4K guy. So he's 6K, and I think, and he's got some other chalkier teammates in the backcourt. Really like him. That I think makes your roster construction different. Okay, DK. I went ahead and tagged Garuba on DK just because he's 3.5. It doesn't move the needle a ton for him that Şengün's out because it probably moves the needle a little. Like Şengün stuff gets spread out to some of the other guys, but it just gives him a little bit more ceiling. Probably a couple more minutes, I think, we tacked onto his projection, so it does help, but it's not like some big needle mover. But I think the fact that he's 3.5 on a slate that doesn't have a ton of cheap value, I think is what makes him a lot for me in cash game format. So,
okay, I have to ask real quick.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Is Boban going to play? Can I play Boban? Because I have him locked into my lineup just for fun. Is that
I don't. Yeah, that's if it's for fun, then no, it's not insane. If you're like actually trying to profit, then I think that is slightly insane. Yes.
Okay. Bummer. All right. Fair.
Yeah.
Continue.
They want to go. I heard Keith mention it right before we hopped on. This game's going to go small.
Yeah.
It's just not a game for him. There's just no one on the other side of the court that. I mean, if they want to get different, they can surely do it.
I got you.
Hell,
but it's not like there's a Jokic or something on the other side that they need a body for. Yeah.
Yeah, they have a bunch of young guys that they're like really want to develop in that spot in the 4 and the 5. Like it would be pretty silly for them to give Boban minutes because he's kind of a finished product at this point in the league.
Yeah.
But you never know. So, but yes, to answer your question, if you were trying to profit, it'd probably be a little crazy.
I'm still playing him, but okay.
Yeah, I know. I knew you were going to. I don't know why you asked me.
Right. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
I have Harden, Vassell, and Garuba tagged. So let's see. Harden has. We'll just look at both guard spots to see who we're filling in for at this guard slot. Okay, so a lot of the same guys actually that I. Can you still hear me, Roth? Or
yeah,
yeah.
I think
you're fine. Yeah, just my I want to make sure I could hear you too, just because my my earpiece went a little weird there, so I just
You know what helps is if you just go old school with these wired guys, they never let you down.
Yeah, okay.
They never let you down.
I think it's because Card's muted his mic a little bit, or turned the gain down a little bit. Yeah. There we go.
My mic was acting a little weird too, so hopefully is that any better?
Yeah, when you muted, I did. I that's what confused me, I think, or did turn it down or whatever. Anyways, yeah. So guard. So a lot of the same guys I mentioned, and it's like kind of weird. It's similar, like at the 6K range. Bane, Hero, Jalen Green, all similar stuff. I really like Josh Hart too at 5'6". He's like Ben Simmons, except he can score. So like Ben Simmons might do a lot of rebounding and assisting and everything. Josh Hart does that too, except he can also score. So I like him at 5'6". I'm a little higher on him than our projections. Mentioned Anthony Edwards at the top end, but yeah, you're probably going with like a Hart or one of these 6K guys. So I would probably go Jalen Green for reasons mentioned on FanDuel, and probably going one of those guys, a leftover at your guard slot here. So I'm going to go ahead and move it over to. We'll keep it on. Let me just peek at these small forwards here, see if there's anyone I want to mention. Yeah, Markkanen is probably going to be in one of these forward slots, either power forward or forward. I already mentioned Josh Hart. I think that is about it. Let's go to power forward. Besides Olynyk, I don't think it's Precious Achiuwa. Didn't mention him yet. He's power forward. I think he's. Hold on, I'm messing up. Let me look. He's center only. Never mind. It's basically just Markkanen here or Olynyk here at power forward. I don't think I would play Keldon in cash games because you can just go to Markkanen for 500 cheaper. So then I have Garuba here tagged, and then you can go Precious. He's 5K. I think he's fine. More of a last piece sort of thing. Jakob Poeltl at 6'3", more of a last piece sort of thing. I don't think it's an Embiid slate for DK. I think based on how this build is going, and a lot of the guys I mentioned are basically like 5 or 6K. I just don't think I don't think you're comfortably getting another stud on DK. So, just hammer in this like the 6K guys and just kind of be done with it at that point. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, very good. Cards, you want to talk some GPP thoughts here on DK?
Yeah, let's do it. I was messing with my mic a little bit, so how does this sound? I don't want to blow everybody away. Is it too loud? Not too loud?
Nah,
so okay.
You're good.
Most of the same plays. The guys that are tournament pivots are largely the same on both sites. Like Maxey is slightly cheaper on DraftKings, so he might have a little more ownership there than he does on FanDuel. Hero will be around the same. Jordan Clarkson is another guy. I think he's maybe a little more viable on DK if you want to bank on Conley being limited in some fashion. He might not start anyway, but I mean he'd be the guy that would potentially benefit with a few extra minutes. Otherwise, the pivots at the tournament guys at guard, that Morant I think is still a strong tournament play. Lillard, like spending up to be a little bit different for some of those guys makes sense in GPPs. Forward plays. Let's take a look here. We got Markkanen at 6,400 grading out a little bit better. And the Utah game in general, I think, will be slightly more popular on DraftKings because you've got the 3.5K center play. So I'm not going to stack that game a ton in tournaments on DK because I think a lot of people are going to do that. Tobias Harris isn't really that exciting anymore, but he's 5,800 on DraftKings against the Pacers, 12% ownership. Jason Tatum, I think, is fine for tournaments as well. And then the center plays are the same guys. Siakam, Jokic, Towns, Gobert, those guys don't have a lot of ownership on DK with more people playing Garuba. So, and Meansy mentioned Smith, Jabari Smith earlier because he's 6.2K on DraftKings. I think he's a reasonable pivot on DK for tournaments. I wish he was a little cheaper, but if you're not playing Garuba, it does make some sense.
Okay, very good. Means anything you want to add here, or we got 10 minutes to get into some QQs?
There is something I want to add. I like piggybacking off Cart's wonderful thoughts here. The Jordan Clarkson thing. I want a couple reasons why I love it too. I didn't even think about the Conley thing. That's a great call. But like the two by far chalkiest people on Utah on DK are Olynyk and Markkanen, and like those are two of their highest like shot volume guys. If they suck, who's going to be the beneficiary? Someone like Clarkson. So like it just makes sense. Like that's just another way to get a lot of leverage off of like really chalky guys. And another guy I mentioned, if you want like a deep GPP guy, would be like Colin Sexton. Maybe you get a late scratch on Conley. Maybe they just limit his minutes like Carter was saying. Sexton's going to be like another guy and he's a chucker, man. He's like Jordan Clarkson. So like he would be another guy. He's cheaper than Clarkson. So like, and he has 1% ownership. So stuff like that. That's all I want to mention. And I'm fine with QQs now.
Okay, very good. Let's get to it. Pulling up the RG Discord. If you're not in it, you should be. If you're just watching on YouTube, hit the like button. Give us that little thumbs up. I'm scrolling up just a little bit. Means we're going to Along, who says DK Cash means Bane or Green.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Green there just because I'm assuming Brooks is coming back. If Brooks, for some reason, gets ruled out again, then I would probably go Bane, but Green's just been solid, man. Like, and there's a little bit of uncertainty with the Brooks reinsertion into the lineup, so there's nothing that Jalen Green's done that makes me not want to play him at this price tag. So I would just keep firing. That dude's going to chuck it and be out there for like 30, low to mid 30s minutes. So play him.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Let's go to Bazinga DK single entry GPP cards. Can you play Garuba and Eason together? They seem cheap enough that you could.
Well, so this is a discussion that we often have in tournaments because you need to shoot for ceiling. And yes, they are cheap enough to where, like, combined, they're $8,200. I just don't think that the likelihood of them both having a ceiling game together and everything breaking the right way, I just don't think that's the way to go unless you're full stacking the game. If you're really banking on Eason, who's mega contrarian on this slate, I think you don't put Garuba in that lineup and you hope that you really hit the leverage on that. So I'm fine with Eason and some GPP builds, but I don't think I'd play them both together. I think you got to take a stand on Garuba not doing a whole lot and then Eason benefiting from that.
Okay, makes sense. We'll go to Carolina guy. Hey, when building lineups in a FanDuel single entry, do you build cards? Do you build cash-like lineups and then swap some low-owned players for chalky players?
Yeah, I kind of understand where the question is going. Like the thought process is, was this a single entry or a small field question?
Single entry.
So single entry, you can build a cash type lineup and then maybe you differentiate two spots. Like instead of playing Markkanen or Olynyk, maybe you play one of those guys and then you play Clarkson instead. You don't have to go completely off the reservation, for a single entry type of build because most people do play those a little bit safer, so to speak. So I think, yeah, you can use some chalky plays and then, get different in maybe two spots and that seems to be a positive EV kind of build.
Okay, very good. Gregorius the Wise, DK Cash means my boy Brunson and Markkanen or Bane and Big Body. Quick note that Brunson was going to drop 40 the other night, like I said, but they blew him out. They blew him out.
Because he's too good.
He's too good was the issue, so he didn't get the minutes. Anyways.
I would lean the first one, yeah.
Okay, very good. FanDuel Cash from Swag with Chris means Big Body Kelvin Johnson and Bane or Harden Gordon.
Okay, Harden Gordon. I would do the first one.
Very good. Boolies, FanDuel large GPP cards. Who are my top two priorities to bring back on Utah in the Houston-Utah game stacks?
Yeah, FanDuel is an interesting question because the Utah guys aren't going to be quite as chalky over there, except for Olynyk, who will be pretty popular. But let me look at. I'm trying to bring up now. So Markkanen is 76. Do you have a FanDuel Utah?
He's like 3%, and Clarkson 5, Conley 9.
Yeah, so I'm not playing Conley. While I do think he's going to play, I am a little bit nervous. So, I mean, Clarkson and Markkanen are the answers that make the most sense. Like, Sexton would be your super, super deep risk reward kind of guy, but yeah, it's probably Clarkson and Markkanen.
Very good. Okay. Where are we at here? FanDuel Cash means you want Van Fleet or big body Keldon Johnson.
I'd go Van Vliet, and remind me to talk some Jazz after we lock.
Okay, very good. DK Cash from Achilles, Bane or Jalen Green? He says, I think you said Green. You did.
Yeah, we just mentioned that a little bit. Both fine. I prefer Green. I just like him better a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Psychedelic 420, great name, says FanDuel GPP cards. You want Jokic and Cole Anthony or Gobert and Jay Brown? No, I've already got Harden at 10K in this lineup.
It's a loaded question. Let's see. Harden's presence feels irrelevant to the answer. Now I'm going to need those pairings one more time if you still got it handy.
Yep, it was Jokic and Cole Anthony or Gobert and Jaylen Brown.
Yeah, both are interesting for GPPs. I think I'd play the first one.
Very good. DK Cash means 2v2 Pirtle and Hart or Olynyk and Big Body.
I would do the first one.
Very good. NBA DFS FanDuel Cash question means Wagner, Dame, or Clarkson, Butler.
I would do the first one.
DK Cash from Achilles means Pirtle or Bane. Who do you like?
Bane.
Yeah, a lot of people are in the same area here. So 3 questions in a row. Pirtle versus Bane. Next one, DK Cash,
Bane.
all of them. Bane versus Big Body. Next one was
Bane.
Pirtle last piece.
Pearl's fine, but I prefer Bane. So it's just like a 6K fest on DK tonight.
I see. Okay, so it was Bane over Pirtle, Bane over Big Body, Pirtle okay last piece.
The Bane Big Body one's just a little closer because I'm guessing without looking that Big Body projects a little better. I just prefer Bane just a little bit more. So
yeah, I mean he's the guy now on that team. I think Keldon.
Who?
Right?
Who are you talking
Keldon
about?
Johnson.
Oh yeah, he's got the highest usage on the team now. Yeah,
Right.
He's got like 30, 40. It's like been 30, 35, and 45 or something in his 3 games. Like just what happens when you play and shoot a lot.
Yeah, right. And no one else on your team is
exactly.
Yeah. DKGPP cards, Halliburton or Anthony Edwards last piece. I kind of love what Meansy was saying about Edwards, but
yeah, I like Edwards. I like Edwards. Yeah, Halliburton is like his shining star is like he's the only guy guaranteed to get minutes on the Pacers. That's about the only thing. So yeah,
allegedly,
you just never know. They're 12-point underdogs. Like that one's Edwards, and it's not particularly close, I think.
Very good. We'll go to Jeff. Means are 3 guys from the same team in cash okay? You don't care, right? You don't care.
Oh yeah, I mean as long as we like them as plays, I don't care. Yeah.
Yeah. Just play the best as long as they're the 3 best
like
guys.
5 or 6 before. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. KM says DK Cash means Hart, Bane, or Olynyk and Keldon.
Hart, Bane.
Showboat King just pointing out that my boy Big Body Keldon Johnson is in the RG Opto. He should be. I mean, he's the man. He's that dude.
The Roth hacked it.
Yeah, that's right. I had to grease some palms and talk to the dev team to make that happen. All right, we got about 1 minute here until lock. FJ says, DK GPP cards, rank these shooting guards, please. Jaylen Brown, Halliburton, Levine.
I think that order is pretty reasonable. I'd definitely Brown first for me.
Very good. Means DK Cash, you want Porter and Big Body or Edwards and Pirtle?
Ooh, I'm going to stake my claim on Edwards, so I'll go the Edwards one.
Okay, very good. Jumping over the YouTube chat, Harden or Ja? He didn't say what. Means Harden or Ja?
Definitely Harden for cash, so I'll let Cards take the other side of it if he wants.
Yeah, I would probably play Morant in tournaments, but it's Harden's going to project better if you're just into playing the best plays.
Okay, very good. Eric says, I keep landing on Anthony and Claxton in DK Cash. Is that okay? Claxton, did we talk about him?
I would not play Claxton. I'm assuming he means Cole Anthony.
Cole Anthony.
Yeah, if I'm with Cole Anthony, I'd have to do a little digging on the clackety clacks, but I would prefer not to play him. I'm pretty sure he's had a decent looking game log so far, but I think he's priced too expensive for cash from my perspective.
Gotcha. All right. Well, we've hit the lock real quick. Is Carmelo Anthony in the league right now? I have no idea.
No, but he was looking fly on his fits were looking good on the Redeem Team doc.
I kind of despise the NBA's obsession with the outfits and all that. Like
I despise the stuff that looks ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, yeah, a lot of it is real.
Yes.
But like the official NBA account is always tweeting what people are wearing. Like, I don't care. I tweet some plays. I don't care what they're wearing. All right. Hey, we hit the lock means you wanted to talk about Utah, I think.
Yeah. So I was talking about their future, the under on their wins for the season. And I got so blinded by like them just shipping away everybody that I zoomed out and just looked at their organization as a whole. Like these guys are so obviously like tanking and wanting to get a top pick. And I didn't really like spend enough time looking at their roster because like they actually have good NBA players on their team. Like Markkanen, Conley, Olynyk, Clarkson, Vanderbilt, Jury Salado, Walker Kessler, Beasley, Sexton, Gay, THD. Like that's their basically 10 deep. Those guys would all be leaguers on another team. Like those guys are good. I just like then you look at like the Spurs and you're like, maybe like 3 or 4 of them. Then you look at the Thunder, like, maybe 2 or 3 of them. But like they have a good team, so that's why they're playing well. I hope they like ship out Conley, ship out Clarkson soon, so the under is still in play. But I should have looked harder at their roster when I talked about that.
Sadly, I heard none of that because the delivery guy came and the dogs started losing their mind. And now,
speaking my language, man.
Now I'm like sweating and I'm tilting.
It was really, really poignant and a great point by me. So just
I bet it was. Yeah,
you can
I bet it was good
rewatch
stuff.
it later.
We're actually going to get an Emmy for it, so thanks a lot for missing it, Kevin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and I was like, I'm gonna ruin the Emmy because I was like off screen giving my dogs like death eyes. I was like, cut that shit out. All right, let's see. Let me see if we can take like a quick question here. Yeah, we got one more question, so let's do it. Cards, FanDuel single entry. Do you think spend ups like Bam are viable with the cheap guy like Garuba within that same lineup? Do you think something like Clarkson is a viable pivot off of chalky KO? Which yes, we agree.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I don't have any problem with a build like that for sure. Like Garuba won't be as popular on FanDuel because it's not as necessary, but yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I got one last question here from the YouTube chat. 2 people asking at the same time. Any interest in Coloco?
Yeah, I was looking because they're starting him and not Precious, so I was looking at his price tag.
I mean, it's going to be nothing. His price tag is going to be, I don't know who he is, so it will be.
Well, I think it might be a fake starter thing. I don't think I would play him in cash. I think Precious is going to get the majority of those minutes. Like you can look at the game flow tracker from the last game, and it was when Coloco got ejected. But I'll wait and see what projections say. See what they put his minutes at. I'm guessing they're gonna project him for like fake starter minutes. Would be my guess.
Okay, I'm interested. Cards, are you interested in GPPs?
Roth is always interested in the cheap guy,
Yeah.
the cheap guy that makes everything work. I'm not. I mean, because I don't see the ceiling. I don't see just 30 random minutes coming here. You know, either it's a couple rotations in 6-8 minutes, or maybe it's 15-16 minutes. But yeah, I'm not really. But yeah, we'll see what projections come up with.
But I mean, does he need 30 minutes if he's the bare minimum, which I imagine he is, since I have no idea who the hell he is?
No, I mean, I guess not. But is he the kind of player that's going to get you 25 fantasy points in 20 minutes? It's just at some point, raw points matter in GPPs because he's taking up a roster spot, and the people that win are going to have 30 plus from every position. So tough for me to get there without any sort of guarantee on playing time.
That's honestly the one thing that I've learned. I refuse to admit that I've learned, and I keep going back to my old ways. But like putting in that 3K guy and seeing the flame emoji with 20 points feels so good, but it's not. Like it just doesn't get you what you need. Like, it looks great. I got the flame emoji. Hooray.
The old concept of 6 times salary or whatever, the multiplier to make it all work.
Yeah,
it's just less of a thing with the tournaments because you can't have a dead position because somebody else is going to have Yeah, your 3K guy might have 15, but if a 4K guy has 25, that's more valuable. So,
yeah. Every time I've ever done really well or won a GPP, it's because I have kind of a mid-range build, which is against everything that I want to do. My soul screams at me when I don't go stars and scrubs, but it's just, I don't know. It's a better build, and I have some really good mid-range builds tonight. So fingers crossed for that. Anything you boys want to add here before we check on out?
Not I. No.
No. Okay. Then
Good here.
with that, no, you good, Cards?
yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. With that, we are going to get on out of here. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up. This is a little thumbs up. You hit it. It turns a different color. It's very fun to do. I recommend it. We are going to get out of here for Means, for Cars, and for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crunched.